Two in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan. Happy Fast Break Friday, everybody. How we doing? How are we feeling?
What is evidence?
A really odd opening day of the tournament.
You thought it was odd yesterday?
Well, the reason it was odd is because the first set of games were so bad.
Yeah, a lot of blowouts early on.
Blowout city. And so I'm going from, I get home as soon as I can. I turn on the tournament. I got all the games on. None of these games are entertaining at all. And honestly, it kind of felt like Shohei Ohtani had stolen the day from the tournament. Because I just kept reading and thinking about this story. It's such a massive story, and yeah. I know he doesn't speak English, but think about this for a second. Three just giant of international athletes. Jokic, Messi, Ohtani. I only know one thing about three of those guys. He likes horses.
Jokic likes horses.
That's all I know about Jokic. He doesn't talk to the media that much. He goes home in the summer. He's not here.
He actually didn't even seem excited to win the NBA title. He just wanted to go back.
Messi doesn't ever talk to anybody, ever. He's got kids, but I don't know if I could identify his voice.
He hangs out with the Kardashians, I know that.
Yeah, he gives favoritism to Kim Kardashian's child, because why would you want to give a poor child in Miami an opportunity to come out on the field when you could give Kim Kardashian's kid? And I have no idea what Shohei Ohtani sounds like.
He has wife.
I have wife.
She is normal.
Yeah.
He has a dog.
And he won't tell you the name.
We do not know the name of the dog, but he has a dog.
But we did find out from one person that we think the name of his dog is Dodger. Because he said...
That's stupid.
Well, he said the name of my dog is the team, and then they did some digging. I think it was Pablo Torre did it, and he found out. He's confidently saying that his dog's name is Dodger.
Investigative journalism to find out the name of the dog.
Yeah. Actually, I believe this did come out in December. I'm saying this totally wrong. Decapin, I believe that was the actual name revealed by MLB sources. But you can call him Decoy. I think that's a Japanese word for
like
decoy.
What Shohei Ohtani is for this gambling scandal.
Hey!
Hey-o! Hey-o!
Or what his interpreter is for him.
Hey-o! Dude, they are so lucky they are in South Korea right now.
Aren't they coming back? I thought that was
they're coming back. Did they play? They didn't play today. Was it just 2 days and they're back?
2 games.
I thought it was a 2-game set. Yeah.
Well, they were just lucky when the story broke that they were in South Korea.
I disagree with you.
See, I think being that far away, having this stuff happen kind of overnight, where there's the scenes of him hanging out with his interpreter in the dugout before the game. I think those 2 games for 97% of sports fans were out of sight, out of mind. And then you hear maybe rumblings of the story. Like if this had happened on U.S. ground in Los Angeles, all the media's there, opening day at Dodger Stadium, I think it's a different can of worms for him. He's like able to kind of hide out. We're internationally traveling. I'm not going to have a comment on this right now. And I don't know if that would fly over here in the States.
Well, if you don't speak English and you need an interpreter, you get out of almost every media thing that you want.
To get out of jail free card. My interpreter is actually no longer here, so I can't answer your questions.
Ichiro could speak English. He chose not to. He had an interpreter. It's a way to get out. It's a crafty way for these athletes to get out of it here. This is where I disagree with you. They were the kickoff, even though they don't call it like opening day. They were the starting of the season. And so, yeah, not everybody watched those games, but the ones who did or caught highlights, what did we get? Mucking it up with the interpreter laughing about something as the massive theft was happening. He ruined everything. Not only did he screw it up by sending this guy out to talk.
Ruined everything.
You cannot have that video exist. If you stole $5 million from me, you would not find me in the studio laughing with you.
No.
And then going, he just made massive theft from me.
He did it.
He's the one. So I kind of disagree with you. I do think it lands a little harder in America, but I think because that dugout video happened and then the story comes out afterwards, it's like, wait a minute. You guys were just laughing 2 hours ago together. This wasn't massive theft.
I think we should all agree the appropriate punishment here is to abolish his Dodger contract, make him a free agent again, and he's no longer allowed to play in Los Angeles. I think that's the most reasonable thing. He has to go back on the open market, and we get the chance to bid for him again.
You just want to send him to San Francisco as purgatory.
I like that you
Shut
think
up.
San Francisco was going to get him in this.
I mean,
rebidding.
honestly, any place is better than the LA Dodgers.
What if you went back to the Angels?
That's fine. I don't care. Go be irrelevant there and play with Mike Trout. That's okay. Sucks for baseball, but it's better for me as a sports fan, and I'm a little greedy this morning.
So this is my point. I get off the show, I turn on March Madness, and all of those games sucked, and I'm like, the Shohei thing is fascinating. And then finally the games got better, got closer, and I kind of forgot about it for a few hours and was locked in on the tournament to the point where
It got better as the day went on.
I was at my daughter's choir concert, and I did the old dad sneak the phone out of the pocket when she's not singing and look down at some scores.
I actually last night was thinking, I wonder if choir concerts are still going on this time of year. Because, God, when I was like in middle school, I will never forget in our choir room before we went on to perform, there were NCAA tournament games on like the 3 TVs that we had. And even the kids were glued to it. It's awesome.
Oh, dude, we used to have, I won't name teacher names, but because I don't know if they're still at Park Rose. We had my senior year, we had 2 teachers that were locked into the teachers' NCAA tournament pool in the high school. And I had to fill out one of the teachers' brackets. She's like, hey, you play basketball. Do you feel like you can pick these games for me?
Sure, why not?
And I said, sure. So I filled out her bracket, and in her class, she did the old trot out the AV TV system that's
Yes.
locked onto like a rolling, I don't know, cart. And we just watched the games, the entire class, and
Yep.
she's looking down at her bracket and keeping track as she looks at the games. And we went to in the class, and she goes, Brandon. And she winks at me, and I'm like, heck yeah, let's go.
Gotcha.
Those teachers were, everybody remembers them at their school. The teachers that were down to let you watch the NCAA tournament on the first, usually only the first 2 days, didn't really go into any, it's just Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
But the ones that were willing to wheel in the TV for you, everybody remembers those teachers, and they are heroes and legends that will never be forgotten.
They are heroes and legends.
Because these are, look, I'm not a college basketball guy by any stretch of the imagination.
Do you have my bracket, by the way?
I do. I have them. It's under lock and key. You want to know what you did yesterday?
Well, I have an idea of what I did, but I thought I left it on the table.
No,
in
I got
here.
it right here.
We'll go through that
I've
later.
been highlighting and crossing out
Okay.
wins and losses.
All right.
But I'm not a college hoops guy. I care mainly for the first 4 days of the tournament, and then my interest kind of wanes. But there are these yesterday and today. I am reminded of these 2 days are so fun. Like I got home dealing with a fussy baby most of the day. Finally got him down for a nap. Smoked a bunch of wings. And then just
I thought you were going weed. I
Ditto.
smoked
a
a
whole
bunch
other
of
direction.
wood.
I had a full grill of wings, put them all, they were just out on the kitchen, counter all afternoon. I'm just munching on wings, feeding the baby. Well, I didn't move all day. I watched basically every game all the way up until Samford got absolutely screwed because that was all ball.
That
They didn't
was
get any
all
hand.
ball. That was
They got
bad.
hosed.
That was bad.
It's fun. These 2 days are awesome days on the sports calendar.
We're doing a jokey thing in which Jay Billis has no idea it's happening, but we've included Jay Billis in our show competition. And so we're trying to beat Jay Billis because I've thought this is such a lucky thing. Nobody wins this and actually knows what's going to happen. I remember when the guy that had George Mason in a Final Four, they put him on TV and they said, why did you put George Mason in your Final Four? He goes, I saw one game in their non-conference. Like the dumbest reason I've ever heard in my life. And so I'm convinced that one of us can beat Jay Billis.
We both dominated him yesterday. That's for damn sure.
And part of the reason I come in today, I don't know where I'm at on this, but part of the reason I feel even more confident today is because everybody and their damn mom told me about the collective net rating of McNeese, how it's like top 15 in offense and defensive efficiency.
They blew everybody out.
Housed. They were terrible. This is a down year for Gonzaga. They won by 20.
That game was over 4 minutes into it. You're like, okay, see you later. I was excited. I haven't watched much Gonzaga this year. I was like, I'm going to turn them on. This will be fun. And then 5 minutes in, I'm like, nope, change the channel. What else is on?
Shove your net rating up your ass. I don't want to hear it.
Will Wade, his cheating ass, ended up at McNeese, blew out a bunch of high school teams all year, and we all bought it hook, line, and sinker.
God, they were one of the hottest trendy picks, and I fell for it because I
Yeah.
just kept hearing about it. McNeese, McNeese. By the way, did they drop the state, or is there a McNeese and a McNeese state?
See, I thought it was McNeese State at all
So did
times. Maybe there's one of each, and this is just McNeese is good, or maybe they thought they were cool and losing some weight. Now we're just McNeese.
Is that a rivalry, McNeese versus McNeese State, or did they just drop the state? I don't know what it is, but
no,
I kept...
it is. Yeah, it is McNeese State. They just dropped the state.
Why?
I don't know.
Put the ST on there. I need the ST.
Yeah, McNeese State is cooler than McNeese.
When you have a state school, Oregon State, Washington State, it's not Washington on the bracket. I know there's not another McNeese, but damn it, dude, put the ST. I need the state. But they told me all about this team, and I fell for it. Oh, they're Ken Palm rating, and they're and this and that, and then housed. Game over 3 minutes in.
I was laughing my ass off yesterday. So one of the best parts about March Madness is when you get to highlight the games that you get right as you go through your bracket on the first couple of days. Like, yep, got that one. Yep, got that one.
Genius.
It's so fun. But then, if two of your Final Four teams lose over the weekend, the opening weekend, you're like, all right, my bracket's done. It doesn't matter. My national champion's gone. But the first day, it's fun. I watched as little college basketball as humanly possible this year.
I believe you.
I know that you were in somewhat of a similar category, probably on a slightly higher grade than me. But
I watched way more women's than I did men's this year.
We're in kind of a similar camp.
Yeah.
Jason Swigard watches a lot of college basketball.
Like, too much.
Like, we make fun of him. He watches too much college basketball, not just Portland and West Coast Conference, but everybody else. And Jay Bellis, for obvious reasons, watches a ton of college basketball. And it was hilarious to watch. You and I both started like 10-0 yesterday. And Jay Bellis was like barely 500, and Swag was barely like 5-5, 4-6. I was highlighting games that I was winning. I picked Dayton to win because I thought Sean Miller was their head coach. And then I turned on the Dayton game and I thought, that guy's black. That's not Sean Miller. And who won, though? Who won?
Well, yeah.
Your logic doesn't matter, baby.
Well,
Let's go. Dayton to the round of 32.
24-4 run in the last 7 minutes will do
Yeah,
it for
that's
you.
right.
does do it for you.
17-0 run in the final couple of
Hey,
minutes.
I'm feeling on top of the world. For one day, I am leading the Odyssey bracket. for
Are
the
you
men's.
really?
Yeah,
Let's
right
go,
now, I got
Schulte.
13 out of 16 yesterday. Thanks, guys.
Let's go.
Means
Wow.
nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It does
but-
day one.
Guess what, bitch? I got 14 out of 16.
How many do I have?
You went 12-4 in day one.
12-4.
I was 14-2.
What two did you lose?
I took McNeese
Yeah, you fell for that trap too.
and Kentucky. I had Kentucky, obviously.
Yeah, I had Kentucky going out early though. I don't think I had them going.
You did
very
not.
far.
Your bracket's actually in the best shape. Your
Really?
Elite Eight's still alive.
Yeah,
All right, let's
congrats
go.
on your 11-6s, bro.
Hey,
God.
it's not me, man. It's ESPN.com.
Well, you went with it. They
I
see.
know.
Hey, you got led astray on the whole McNeese.
It's the new 12-5.
Yeah, it
That's what
is.
everybody's saying.
It
Jay
is.
Billis was 9-7,
Screw him.
and Swag ended up coming back later in the day. He's 10-6.
Oh, damn it.
10-6.
Pinky's out, bitch.
There's your opening. There's your opening day.
Well, there's our opening segment. Let's talk Oregon Ducks. We got Josh Pate at 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into Oregon, Washington State, the first day of the tournament, and then we'll pause. We'll talk to Pate. We'll do a couple other sports things, and then we'll dive back into the tourney. We'll Sprague the line, of course, as well. But let's start. Oregon gets a pretty convincing win against South Carolina. We start there. Dirt and Sprague, happy Friday. Let's get it going on the Fan.
Here comes the madness.
For the third time in 5 years.
first times missing you when you were gone was when this song played on a Tuesday randomly.
Yeah, did anybody touch the music rotator while I was out?
What do you think?
No, Swigart has. Why would Swag not do that? He knows the numbers. He knows where everything is. Like,
I don't say this is directed negatively or mean. He was out about half the time that you were, just constantly. Schultze, you filled in from a million times. He was gone a lot.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't host because he was gone so much. It was great.
Yeah, he wanted to sit in the studio with me while you were out. And I said, sure, dude. Like, if you want to do it, let's do it. And then the first week that you were out, he goes, looks like I won't be free for 7 weeks. And I'm like, awesome.
cool.
Great.
All right, we'll see you in April.
So, no, I would hear that play on a Tuesday, and I thought I could hear your voice in my head of like, I got to go set the rotators.
This is how neurotic I am. I did think because I had no clue that the kid was going to be born 2 weeks early.
Right.
And you can fit up to, just as way behind the scenes radio stuff, you can fit up to like 100 songs in the rotator. Sometimes it's not all the way filled up, though, and I just kind of pick and choose for every day. And I'm pretty sure when I left, there was only like 25 songs in there. And I thought to myself, like 2 weeks into being off, like they're probably cycling through the same music over and over and over
Absolutely.
again.
Yep.
Because nobody wants to touch it.
Jermaine Couisnard set a Oregon record yesterday in the tournament. Dropped 40 on South Carolina.
First guy from a double-digit seed to score 40 in a game since Steph Curry and Davidson.
I thought South Carolina was good defensively, and they played a slow-down style of basketball. And then I watched Oregon in the second half get 53 points and finish with 87.
Yeah.
They bullied them.
They really did from start to finish. I would argue in the first half it should have been a wider margin if not for Oregon turning the ball over a ton early on.
Yeah.
And then hitting a
Lucky-ass buzzer beater.
three-quarter court three-pointer that went from like, hey, we're up by 8 to, are you kidding me? That went in, really? It's a 5-point game? Like, is that really how this game's going to go? I thought Oregon was in control throughout. Couisnard's one of those, like, he just went off. He was 5 of 9 from three. He's like a 30% three-point shooter on the year.
Everybody thinks to fade him in the next game.
Yeah, man. If I were betting his over-under totals, I probably would. But that's the good thing about Oregon, and I think he highlighted it after the game when he was interviewed on the court that, like, yeah, you're going to occasionally go off, and he's going to go for 40. I think it's the second time this year he's done it. You're going to score 87 as a team. What makes them special, and I thought what they did a great job of in the first half, was playing elite-level defense. And that's kind of Oregon's calling card this time of year. And he touched on it where he said, as long as we play defense, everything else will flow down from there. And Oregon was outstanding on that end of the floor yesterday. Dante is dominant on that side of the ball. And then Evans has done a great job as kind of another big body in the middle of that matchup zone. It just, not surprised at all, man. It's Oregon, it's Dana Altman in March, and they seem to be playing their best basketball. And that was on display again yesterday.
Yeah, Couisnard, obviously the story, and he should be. 40 points at a tournament game, and this doesn't happen. You mentioned that stat with Steph Curry. I thought a lot of it, though, he hit some tough shots. When you watch South Carolina play defense, they're just so concerned about N'Faly Dante.
They're doubling every time he touches the ball.
He's just down there, and he's bodying, and he's backing down, and like you see the help defense kind of slack off a little bit in case they throw it to him, and then that frees up Couisnard to feel like I can go one-on-one here. Yeah. I can get this bucket.
Yeah.
And he's a physical player. Early on, he had 2 plays that I thought were very him of what I've seen from him play this year. He had one where he kind of bodied in, he used his off arm, just moved the guy, got a layup. He tried to do it later, and he ended up fully extending the arm out, and the guy just fell all the way back, offensive foul. But that's the style of basketball he plays. Yeah. I think the attention you get to N'Faly Dante, you mentioned Evans, and I know his shooting splits don't look amazing. Shellstad doesn't play like a true freshman.
No.
He has a lot of I'm forgetting the point guard's name of Colorado they played in the Pac-12 title game, the short guy. I'm forgetting his name, but he's a junior. And Shellstad, I thought, was out-dueling him. Like, Shellstad was bringing it to him, and it's not very often you see, and we'll get to this stuff with Kentucky, 18-year-old freshmen handle that stage that well. Part of that probably helps to play at West Linn and be at this kind of game every year of your high school career and see going to college. But he was good. Obviously, Couisnard with the game of the day, and Foley and the attention he brings from South Carolina defenders. Evans is they're such a Dana Altman team. I'm watching Couisnard get buckets. I feel like I've seen this from 4 different players at 4 different renditions of a Dana Altman Oregon team.
This was Joe Young a couple of years
Yes.
ago. This like fill in the blank for all these random guys that get hot this time of year and make you go on a run. They're a really tough matchup because you have a number one scorer who can carry a team like he did yesterday in Kuznard. You have Dante, who I think is one of the best players in the entire tournament and can dominate on both sides. And as you point out, you have to pay attention to him the entire game, wherever he is. And I thought early on, when they got off to kind of a slow start offensively, they weren't giving him enough touches down low, and those continued to pick up as the game went on. And if he wasn't double-teamed, he scored basically every time he touched it. He was against 7 of 9 from the floor.
9 of 15 from the free throw line. He gets to the line, too.
We got to hit him a few more free throws there, but still, he's getting to the line a ton, and he ended up with 23 points on the game. And then in times when he was double-teamed, he'd swing it, you'd swing it, you'd swing it, and you'd find an open guy, and he would knock down a shot. But then you add on top of that, you have the ability to play high-level defense on the other end, and this is why I think they're a really tough matchup. We'll see how the game with Creighton goes tomorrow night. It'll be fun, the Dane Altman against his old team storyline. But I remember talking to a buddy who's a high school coach a couple of years ago about Dane Altman because he's a unique guy, and he's kind of behind the scenes, and he runs these different defensive schemes. He's throwing these different matchups at you. And he talked about how he had studied the defensive film of Altman in Oregon and how complicated it is and how much communication has to take place.
Yeah.
And an understanding of space and scheme and when to pass off and when to follow. And when you look at the nature of college basketball, it's really like the only time Altman in his entire tenure at Oregon has had a team that was talented and stuck together for a couple of years. They went to an Elite Eight and then a Final Four because they were good enough and then they understood the system and he's that good of a coach. In all these other years, you're basically teaching true freshmen on the fly this complicated defensive scheme, and sometimes they pick it up by the end of the year, and you get like the random Louis King year where you go to the Sweet 16. Remember him? One and done. Remember when Bol Bol was here for a year? One and done. And so you're in this model where you don't really get to coach and develop these guys. Some of your key players are only there for like 7 months, and then they bounce. This is where Oregon's kind of unique this year, is that Kuznard's been around and Folly Dante's been there for 4 years. They plugged in their freshmen, and now you get to the end of the year, and it seems like guys understand their role, they understand their space, the way they communicate, and they're executing. If you go back and look at highlights of Evans in like the first week of the season, I guarantee you he looks like a lost deer just running around like, where am I supposed to be? And now he's 6'11" in the middle of the paint, guarding at the three-point line and following guys he's supposed to.
We probably won't get to this story today, but to kind of bring it up into what you're saying, the NBA announced they're canceling the G League Ignite squad, which is basically a pseudo college team for the one-and-doners that don't want to go to college.
Yeah.
The Scoot Hendersons of the world. Hey, go there for a year, maybe 2, and then you can move up and go to the association. Well, it's gone so poorly, the NBA is completely scrapping it. They're like, we're done doing this. This does not work as a fail. We pay these kids a lot of money, and they're not getting properly coached. I thought one of the big themes yesterday, one of the big themes from the tournament, and one of the teams we'll talk about today, it felt like the college basketball product has suffered tremendously from the one-and-done rule. You get these top-end players that come out of high. Cooper Flagg's going to be this at Duke next year. Everybody wants to watch him play. I'm sure he's going to be awesome. And then he's gone. And we'll get him for 4 months. And goodbye, you're out of our lives. You're going to the NBA.
Number 1 pick.
It felt like for a long time it was kind of the thing about college basketball, the one and done. And there was obviously a lot of negatives to that. But you'd also get a lot of these highlight reel players, these Zion Williamsons. I thought yesterday my big takeaway from the entire day of tournament games, man, experience matters a great deal. And it hasn't shifted the landscape because one-and-dones are no longer going to go to the G League. They're no longer going to go to Europe. They're going to go to college. But I don't know how important it is to have those guys. And I don't mean that as if they're not talented.
Right.
But, I mean, you got a guy with one of the biggest receding hairlines who's 24 lighting Kentucky up. You mentioned there is some youth on Oregon's team. There's also Kuznard and Folly Dante.
And apparently that's too much for the likes of John Calipari.
Well, that we'll get into that. But my big takeaway yesterday, not just from 2 games, but from the entire day's worth of games is, the experience matters a great deal. And I don't think these coaches are going to stop recruiting these 5-star studs who are clearly one-and-dones. But if you told me Dana Altman mentally said, I'm going after the 4 stars, I'm going to be here at least 2 years, I wouldn't fault him for it because he can get really good teams established and have runs, and maybe we'll see what they do. Creighton destroyed Akron, but they're going to be a little more athletic than Creighton.
Yeah.
I like their chances against Creighton. Creighton's well coached, and Creighton is what? Experienced. And experience matters this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, to use Oregon as an example of experience, there's not a lot of tournament experience on the roster. Not many guys, if any, I don't think have been there. But they have a ton of college basketball experience. You know how old Kuznard is?
Isn't he 24, 25?
Yeah,
He's 25 years old.
Yeah. There was a guy that tweeted, Jermaine Kuznard committed to South Carolina when I was 13. I'm a sophomore in college.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's been around forever. And Folly Dante also has not been in the tournament, but he's been in college basketball for 4 years. Tracy is a junior. Like Rigsby, like you got guys who have been around for a long time, and then you plug and play.
Yes.
And I think for Altman, it's about not just finding the impact guys as freshmen, but guys who are smart basketball
Shellstad is
players.
one of these. He's not a 5-star NBA guy.
No.
But damn it, is he? He's going to be a great college point guard.
I mean, you use the example over and over and over again because there's similar positions in the same high school, but it's the same as Peyton Pritchard. Like when Pritchard was on that Final Four team, he wasn't the key cog to it. He was a little piece that came off the bench with all those other veterans, and he'd play his little roles here and there, and then his role grew as the years went on. But you have really smart freshmen who seemingly have bought into the system, who aren't demanding, like, I need X amount of shots. I need X amount of touches. I'm trying to get ready for the NBA. It's more so, how do I fit in? How do I play my role? And it's working really well.
We'll get back into Oregon a little bit later on. You can always reach us at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. More on the tournament. Dive into some of the fun stuff of the tournament day one yesterday. Next, but first, Schulte with a sports update.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on the Fan, the Oregon Ducks pulling off the upset win over 6-seeded South Carolina in round one of the Big Dance. 87-73 the final. Jermaine Kuznard went absolutely nuclear with 40 points. It's the most for any Oregon player in tournament history. And Folly Dante added 23. The Ducks advancing to play 3-seed Creighton tomorrow. Day two of the men's tournament tipping off at 9:15 when 8-seed FAU takes on number 9 Northwestern out of the East region on CBS. But the women also get going today. 3-seed Oregon State facing off against number 14 Eastern Washington. The Beavs 18.5-point favorites. Tip off for that one at 5 on ESPNU. And don't forget the 13th seed Portland Pilots take on 4-seed Kansas State as 22.5-point underdogs. Pre-game gets going with our own Jason Swigard at 1 p.m. over on 910 ESPN. Tip-off at 1:30 on ESPN News. And in the association, the Blazers hitting the court again tonight for the second of a back-to-back against the Clippers at Moda Center. Clips are 12.5-point favorites. Tip-off at 7 p.m. on Root Sports. And you got the Valspar Championship happening again this morning. Round 2 in progress. The leaders are Kevin Streelman and Kevin Roy. Roy is yet to tee off. He's about to get going, but Streelman through 5. They are both tied at 6 under so far. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Fan Madness, presented by George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law. March 21st and 22nd at the Stadium Sports Bar at Alenay. Do the tournament with 1080 The Fan.
And I want to play this clip and explain why I'm playing this clip. Okay? So take a listen to this. One of these schools won yesterday. Monumental win.
Duquesne.
I'm going to play this one more time. A school got their first tournament win since, was it ever or is it 1964? There were a couple of schools yesterday.
64 something.
Something like that. It was
Duquesne.
Duquesne. I play this because Schultze, yesterday, the show's about over, and Dirt and I he's packing up his stuff. I'm getting ready to leave, and we look up at our old television set, and we look at the scores that are upcoming for the 9:15 games. I hear from Dirt, Duquesne?
Yes.
Duquesne?
I love
Duquesne.
Duquesne?
Thank you.
And I looked up, and I saw who he was talking about. Duquesne? And he goes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was floored. We all have this, but I was floored. I thought you knew who they were.
Let's be honest. Their name should be Duquesne.
I agree.
Duquesne is a way cooler name.
Duquesne?
It's a way cooler school name than Duquesne.
Duquesne.
That is way cool. Duquesne. Okay, we have an S in here we're not going to pronounce. I think my favorite tweet of the day yesterday was they now play Illinois in the second round of the tournament. And somebody tweeted out that this game is for the loser has to pronounce the S.
That's awesome.
So whoever loses, you're either Illinois or you're Duquesne.
Which one would be better?
I mean, Duquesne's way better.
Duquesne.
I mean, I've heard a dude from Illinois describe himself, and I'm saying that like tongue in cheek. He described himself from Illinois.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, really? I'm from Oregon. Like, let's all screw up our home state.
Did I pick them to win? No, I didn't. I have Illinois winning. I think I have
You have Illinois winning
Yeah,
that game,
okay.
yes.
But I have them in it.
You did take Duquesne. You and I both took Duquesne. Why did
did.
I take Duquesne? I don't know, but I had him in the second round of the tournament.
Guys, I'm pretty sure that former Blazers analyst Mike Rice went to
did.
Duquesne.
Yes.
That's the only
He coached
reason
them too.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason I know how to pronounce Duquesne is when
Yeah.
I was a kid. I read all those media books, and I knew all about Mike Barrett and Mike Rice. And he went to Duquesne. Duquesne. Okay.
They're just one of those weird schools that I never think about ever, and then randomly they'll make the tournament, and largely they don't win any of their games, clearly, right? They made
No.
history yesterday.
No.
But they're not a school I think about, and then they're in the tournament once every 5 or 6 years, and I went, oh, yeah, Duquesne, I like Duquesne. And then I don't even know where they're at. I don't know anything about that university.
Did y'all pick him to win?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I had him win. I mean, come on, Schultze. Duh.
yeah.
Why wouldn't we take...
Did you not watch their net rating season?
Dude, against BYU? Come on. Not a chance in hell. They
I
came out
also-
with 4 white guys. They didn't have a chance in winning that game.
I do also enjoy picking against BYU. There's only like 3 people from BYU that I like. Kalani Sataki, Jason Sakanik, and Steve Young.
How do you not like Jimmer Fredette, dude? Jimmer Fredette was a time and place in college that was pretty cool.
You know what? You're right. I
The
apologize.
Jimmer-
The Jimmer, yeah.
Pulling up all over the place.
Dude, yeah. You're right. I'll throw the Jimmer in
The
there.
Jimmer had his moment. Now he's like dominating the dojo in China and just killing it over there. Like, good for him, dude. He was awesome at BYU.
We had some great upsets. Them winning their game was pretty awesome. The big one was Oakland. Oakland beating Kentucky. The 14 over the 3.
Should be a qualifier there, not California.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
non-California Oakland beat Kentucky.
They had a guard who is 24 years old. He's from D2. He transferred up. I mentioned him in the first segment. He's got the greatest hairline of any college basketball player in this tournament.
He's got my hairline. He's like 37 years old, dude. He's losing it along the sides.
Jack Golke. What a name.
Can we draft this guy in Portland?
So yesterday he was 10 of 20 from 3. This is a fun fact of Jack Golke that I didn't know until yesterday. Jack Golke, 24-year-old D2 transfer to Oakland, all year has attempted 4 2-point shots.
I think it's 8.
Oh, I heard 4.
I think it's so. I looked this up because I saw that graphic and I'm like, oh, this is the craziest thing
That
ever.
is insane.
He has attempted 3. Where did this go? Season totals.
Is it 8?
355 overall field goals. 355. 347 of them are 3-pointers.
Wow.
He is 131 of 347 from 3.
So maybe I either heard that wrong or they said it wrong, but I heard that. And 8, even 8 to me is an insane number to hear of 2-point field goal attempts versus what he does from three.
He's a 348 or 347 to 8 split of field goal attempts.
He destroyed those Kentucky babies, man.
He was letting fire from all over the place. That guy's my new hero.
Oh, man.
He's like a power hitter in baseball who like knows I'm going to hit a $197, but I'm hitting 47 home runs.
It's Jim Thome.
And you're like, hey, can we try and push one to right field, maybe get on base? He's like, no, dude, I'm hitting bombs or I'm striking out. I only do one of two things. That's what Golke does, and I want him in a Blazer uniform.
Here is Golke in the postgame talking about him and his team against a team like Kentucky that they're clearly just out-talented.
Obviously, we come in, we're the underdog by all measures, but you just got to, as a player, you can't think that way. You got to go out there and you got to think that you have the same talent level as them. I know they have draft picks, and I know I'm not going to the NBA, but I know on any given night I can compete with those type of guys, and our team can compete with those type of guys. And that's why I was so confident going into it, and that's why I say we're not a Cinderella, because when we play our A game, we can be the best team on the floor.
There's not a more college basketball answer you could get from a white player who just had a random 10 3-point game.
I think he was one away from the NCAA tournament record.
Well, this is the thing. It's either going to continue and be such an amazing story, or he is going to be like 3 for 24 in the next game from 3. There's really no in between there. He's either going to be amazing again, or he's going right into the crapper.
He doubled his average attempts per game. He averages about 9.9 threes per game. He jacked up 20 of them yesterday.
Well, did you hear his coach in the postgame with him next to him with Evan Washburn?
No.
They're like, hey, I told him to shoot. You're the best in the world.
He just keeps shooting, man.
No, that was the game plan. The coach's name is Greg Campy, and he's this lovable, longtime college basketball coach. Audio surfaced last night after they pulled off the upset against Kentucky. This was him on a men's basketball trip. He went to Europe, and he gave a review of Europe as an American basketball coach. Take a listen.
I'm gonna show everybody this, because all of this stuff, no way, okay? Only Pringles. I would eat the Pringles. The rest of this stuff, I wouldn't waste a cent on. And the other problem I got with Europe, 10 days, no Diet Dr. Pepper, all right? No Dr. Pepper. All they have here is Coke, Sprite, and they come in bottles like this. Come on now, who's gonna drink a shot of Coke, right? And what they do have is Coke Zero, but that zero stands for zero flavor, zero chance of ever purchasing it, and zero chance of me ever being able to enjoy Dr. Pepper, okay? What's going on here, man? What's wrong with these people?
USA.
I'm being 100% honest. We'll carry this over because I want to talk about Kentucky. If Dr. Pepper was like, we do these Fansville commercials, we have athletes, we had DJU do our stuff, hire Greg Campy and just play that last clip. Coke Zero, yeah, zero chance I'm going to be drinking that. Give me a Dr. Pepper.
That should be your new advertisement.
He should be the spokesman of Dr. Pepper.
There were pictures going around yesterday. I guess he coaches a couple of games every year, or maybe one game every year, in like an ugly Christmas sweater. And it was basically Coach Calipari lost to this guy, and it's like him dressed up on the sideline of an Oakland basketball game as the Grinch. The other great thing about the tournament is you never know who the random guy is going to be. Like, remember when St. Peter's won as a 15 seed a couple of years ago, and we had the Doug Eady guy who had the porn star mustache, the random white guy. You just have your random characters every tournament, and now we found out yesterday, you turn on that game, you're like, Jack Golke, dude. This guy shooting a bunch of threes with a 37-year-old hairline might be the storyline of the next couple of weeks.
Good job, Captain Obvious.
We'll get into a little bit more Kentucky. We got Josh Pate at 7, so we'll pause, and then we'll dive back in. We may hit on some Shohei stuff. I'm still pretty fired up. I think it's an incredibly crazy story, but we'll get back into the tournament. We'll talk the Ducks as well. Josh Pate at 7 up next. Not a good day for this coach. Let's talk about that next on The Fan. to get to from that. Story of the night for you guys. What was it? What was your outside of your fandom? Let's go away from the fandom. We'll get to the Cougs, by the way, as well. That was a nice comeback by the Cougs against a very, what did we talk about earlier? Experienced Drake team.
Yes.
Did you guys have a big takeaway? Was it Oakland, Galkey? Was it DJ Burns in NC State? The big man who loves Akeem Olajuwon and has the same footwork as him?
I actually missed most of that game.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think that was at the same time as the Washington State game.
It was.
I didn't really have, with the kid, I didn't really have the two-screen thing going. I was kind of focused more on one game.
Do you know who I'm talking about, Burns?
Kind of vaguely.
Kind of the heavy set big for NC State. He doesn't...
I'll take your word for
He
it.
gets the most attention. Basically, he grew up watching and idolizing Akeem and, Duncan, David Robinson and Duncan.
He is a big dude.
He's not good on defense whatsoever, but man, is he electric and fun to watch on offense.
I'd have to say my biggest takeaway was probably the guy that you're going to be talking about here in a minute. So maybe I'll help you tease this gentleman a little bit. But John Calipari on the changing landscape, a little bit in his opinion, of college basketball. And maybe he's kind of copping out a little bit, but I was fascinated with almost what seems to be a changing of the guard in not just this season, but last season. But really hearing Calipari's comments that we're about to get into, it almost really sunk in on me that, like, yeah, this is here. The old guys are kind of done.
I'm going to go a different direction because you took Kentucky was definitely the story of day one. I think an alternative one for me was, one, how bad some of the officiating was, which then culminated in the Kansas-Samford game.
Awful ending.
Should have had a great all-time ending because that was an incredible block that was all ball, and instead they called the foul and Kansas survives.
They ruined the comeback.
They did.
Samford had this massive comeback, and they called that a foul. I don't know how you call that a foul.
And there was a lot of that yesterday. Right? No challenges.
Thank you. Dumb question. I'm sorry, but nothing that the coaches can do in that
Just
situation.
Egregious. Awful. You mentioned Kentucky, Schultze. Kentucky had blown a game to LSU earlier this year, Dirt, when you were out. They blew a 17-point lead, and LSU got lucky, and they hit a shot, and they win. And we did I think it was Patrick that day, and we went around the table and said, Calipari, overrated, properly rated, underrated. Me and Patrick were like, overrated. Swag was like, underrated. And I went, why? And this, and this. He is now 1-4 in his last 5 tournament games.
I think I would have answered that properly rated. Like, he's a historic figure in the sport.
I said a little overrated.
He's a good coach. I know the tournament hasn't gone great for him, but he's not... maybe not to the level that some people make him out to be, either high or low in my mind.
Well, he said this yesterday. He talked about his season and his guys. He's got a lot of young guys on this team, and they're going to the NBA. They're one-and-dones. He loves the one-and-done. He talked about his guys in the postgame, and this is not landing well with Kentucky fans right now.
This season, these guys got so much better. We're so good to each other. It's celebrated. To define their season and our season with this game, it's the sport we're in. It's it's what we do. But that's what I'm disappointed for them because they deserve this. The preparation, I thought they were great. I thought the spirit was great. I thought we tried to keep it light. But this tournament, this kind of stuff. And This one hit me hard for them because, again, I just thought I had a team that could do some stuff.
Good job, Captain Obvious.
I love that this is what we remember. This is what our season's defined by. Like, yeah, that's how it works.
We'll get into it more because we got Pate coming up here. But, yeah, dude, you're at Kentucky. This isn't Duquesne. It's not Oakland.
No.
It's Kentucky, and you're 1-4 in your last 5 tourney games. You choose to play the one. I thought he contradicted himself a couple times yesterday. He basically said, my guys didn't show up in the moment. They didn't play how they normally play. Basically said they turtled, that it was too big of a moment for them. They got exposed. And in the same breath at the press conference said, I'm not going to shy away from one-and-dones. I'm making a lot of kids rich, changing lives. And it's like, well, you're not winning tourney games, and that's why they pay you the big bucks. $34 million to buy him out. He's not getting fired.
$34 million.
Unless he chooses the opt-out in his contract to transition into the athletic department as an administrator of some sense for 10 years.
Which he's not going to do.
He will have to take a massive buyout to get out of Kentucky. Otherwise, you got Calipari for another year or two.
I mean, his first 3 years at Kentucky, they went Elite Eight, Final Four, national championship.
It certainly set a table of expectations that they have not delivered on.
They have not. They had a brief run in like 14 to 17 where they went Final Four and then second round exit and then Elite Eight. So at least there were 3 years there where 2 of the 3 you went on a deep run. They have not been to a Sweet 16 since 2018.
That's a long time for that program.
And they've lost now twice in the last 3 years as an extremely high seed. I think it was 2 years ago, it was a 2 seed to a 15 seed. And then this year, a 3 seed to a 14 seed? Like, you're getting bounced in the first round of the tournament, man.
By teams you're significantly out-recruiting.
Yes.
Like, it's not even a contest.
Jack Golke beat you yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot have that happen. And if you're not willing to look in the mirror and say, how do we get better? If I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm pissed about that. One and dones are fine as long as you're winning. It's great to make people money. It's great to benefit their careers and help lead them to the NBA. But if you're a Kentucky fan, it doesn't matter. I don't care how good you are in the NBA. How far did you go in the NCAA tournament? If you're getting bounced in the first round, it's not worth it.
Loaded second hour of the show. We'll dive back into college basketball, maybe dabble in a little Ohtani news, but we kick off the second hour with our good friend Josh Pate. Late kick with Josh Pate. We talk with him to kick off hour number 2. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan. The app 99.5 HD2 and YouTube.com now. We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the radio program, but we've decided to kick off hour number 2. We'll pause on the college hoops. We'll get back into it, Dirt. We kick off our second hour now that you're back on the saddle with our good friend Josh Pate. Late Kick with Josh Pate, CBS Sports 24/7. He's on the road now. The Pate State is on the road.
I believe he was in Manhattan, Kansas with maybe, we cannot confirm, but maybe with Jason Swigart having a Manhattan.
It's possible pinky's out when you're having a Manhattan in Manhattan. On Twitter at Late Kick Josh. And I want to start there with you, Josh, because we appreciate the time. I know you're busy and you're traveling. You've done some coaching interviews the last few days, and I've quite enjoyed them, but something from your Eli Drinkwitz interview stuck with me. And he said at one point in your interview, when you talked about building a program, he said that he learned from his App State approach that wasn't going to work in Missouri, and he had to pivot out in real time and do what was going to work for that situation because all of these colleges are different. I want to ask you, he got to 11 wins by doing this. I find it a fascinating admission and accountability, to be honest, with an SEC coach. Who is going to be the Eli Drinkwitz this year for you in college football? Guy that maybe figures it out and has the right approach and can pop the way Missouri did this year.
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know if there's a guy that is new from the G5 level that's going to do it. I'll tell you one it could be, although he's still at the G5 level, it's just a higher level of G5, is John Summerall going to Tulane. I mean, that guy had Power 5 offers and chose Tulane, and he was at Troy. Everybody thinks that guy's going to be a rock star. Like in the coaching industry, everybody thinks that. You could also see Willie Fritz do it going from Tulane to Houston. So I would keep my eye on those. But I'll tell you one that's been fascinating to me is we've been out on the road. I mean, one of the favorite aspects of being on the road in spring is you get a lot of off-the-record one-on-one time with head coaches and coordinators, et cetera. And I can tell you, man, over the past couple of weeks, the guy that a lot of coaches look at and think highly of that you wouldn't expect is Billy Napier. Like, they think he's a phenomenal coach at Florida. They think that's the situation that Eli Drinkwitz is talking about, where maybe you did things successfully at a G5 level, and for whatever reason, the implementation, the spark just doesn't turn into a full flame at the Power 5 level, and doesn't make you not a good football coach is their point. And I was really fascinated. We did something on the show a couple of weeks ago with Frank Beamer. We were looking at him at Virginia Tech, and he comes there in the late 80s. And everybody just remembers Frank Beamer as like a legend at Virginia Tech. But if you look at it, it took him over half a decade to even top 6 wins. And then he goes on to rattle off double-digit wins in 13 of 17 years after that. So once they got it going, it got going. But the classical question today would be, would Frank Beamer even get to year 6 at Virginia Tech or in major college football?
No chance.
So no way. Like, I think about Napier that way right now. I think Napier's a really good coach. I don't doubt it. I think if given enough time, he'd figure it out. But sometimes you try and implement these approaches, and for whatever reason, they just don't fit. And it's like having a really high-performance car. Like, you know what it's capable of. It's the same as it's always been under the hood. But if it's kind of off in the ditch, if the wheels are spinning, a lot of times this day and age, you're not going to get time to find the traction. And as a result, something that could have been never becomes. And I think that's what Eli Drinkwitz was talking about, having to realize on the fly, no, we better change quick, or this is the SEC. We're not going to have a lot of rope.
It's funny. I didn't even have Billy Napier in my line of questioning, but now I do want to ask the question. There's no way he keeps his job next year, Josh. Look at that schedule. Are they rational enough to understand? I know you've talked about the schedule on your show. Like, best case scenarios, maybe 7. Like, it's brutally difficult. I don't see any way that he survives that.
No, there's a way, but it's a very, very narrow path. Let me put it that way. So your question about, would they be rational enough to understand? Let me give you a quick no. They will not be rational enough to understand. So forget about that. And I've always been of the opinion, if you're a fan base and you do everything that's asked of you, it's okay for you to have high expectations. It'd be one thing if your stadium's half full and you can't raise any money and you're not engaged, but then you want the elite results. Well, I'm not listening to you then. But Florida fans do everything they've been asked. And so, I don't blame them. Like, reality can be reality on both sides. But with Napier this year, I was looking at our metrics today, and of course this is spring and it's really preliminary, but let's just say for the sake of argument, our numbers are right. So our numbers suggest if Florida was, I think, like the 18th best team in the country, let's just, for the sake of argument, they're the 18th best team in the country. Okay, that's really good, right? That would be overachieving, I would think. If they were the 18th best team in the country and their schedule played out on paper exactly as it should, we have them being a 7-5 team because we have them playing that many teams better than them.
Jeez. Yeah, that's insane. All right. Josh Pate is our guest here. Late Kick with Josh Pate, one of our favorites. Dion took to the podium the other day to respond to a story that says Dion doesn't go on high school recruiting visits. He doesn't go to high schools. He doesn't go to your house, your kitchen, meet your mom, your dad, because, well, he's Dion. They want to come see where he lives and how he lives his life. We talked about it on the show. I felt like it was, typical Deion Sanders feeling himself, making one or two good points, but largely to me, I love the portal. High school recruiting's still very vital to the health of a program. He basically admitted he doesn't care as much about that. He's a portal guy. How much is this going to backfire in your mind with Prime and Boulder?
Well, they're not going to build a team that way. I mean, I'm just flat out, they're not going to build a team, and they're not going to build a program, certainly, but I think people understand you're not going to build a program that way. Most people do. I'm going a step further. I don't even think there's a given year that you'll build a sustainable team that way, because I am not a believer you can ever acquire and develop enough line of scrimmage talent through the transfer portal, because I know how important it is to have the mortar between the bricks, so to speak, when it comes to those sorts of pieces. It's not a video game. Happy we have the video game back, and maybe on the video game you can do it that way. In real life, you can't. And I heard what he said, and you're right. Like, in terms of functionality, people would probably be mad if Dion went to one high school and didn't go to the other one. Like, go to both of them then. Like, go out there and
Right.
go to both of them. This is what in the real world we just call it recruiting. Like, we call it a grind, and that's what you do. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But I'm telling you, there's this thought after they got a hot start last year. There was just this thought that, boy, within the next couple of years, Dion's gone. To where is what I keep asking. To where? I'm entertained by him just like anyone else. I'm glad he's there. Like, I'll offer up all the prefaces that everyone else does. But I just keep wondering. People keep referring to 2024. Oh, after this year he'll be gone. Where is he going? It's what I keep asking. Like, what kind of result are they going to put on the field this year that entices any other program that is a rung or two above Colorado to say, yeah, that's what we want?
Yeah, we were talking the other day, Josh, about how kind of the new standard in college football for programs outside of maybe one or two had become, like, you make the college football playoff, that's your, like, did we have a successful season? Yes, we made the playoff, or no, we didn't. I think that's going to kind of go out the window now, and we can get to this whole expanded nonsense, and we're up to 14, and, the payouts and all that stuff. Like, it continues to grow. I'm curious, as a two-parter for you. One, what does that become? Like, using a program like Oregon as an example, like making the playoff is one of the peak moments in the history of this program. They haven't done it since 2014. Is that still like the litmus test of, like, all right, you're in the playoff, you're in the mix, whether you win a game or not, that was a successful season? And then I'm just curious, like, we haven't dove much into the Big Ten yet, outside of, we know Ohio State and what they are, and Ryan Day and how successful he's been, but Michigan's got a new coach. Franklin can't quite win some of these big games. Washington's restarting. I'm just curious, not only the litmus test of Oregon as a program, what's successful and not, does it change going forward, and then how do they fit into that year one of the Big Ten?
They fit very well in year one in the Big Ten. I think they have the second best talent roster in that conference the day they step in there. And unlike any other West Coast team I can remember in recent history, they, in this moment, are plenty good enough on the lines of scrimmage, especially the defensive line. They have acquired and stacked the kind of depth and talent and versatility in talent that you need to be able to weather that. Now, I know people listen to that and they say, it's a couple of good teams and then a bunch of Purdue's and Iowa's. How tough can it be when you have people week in and week out that are bigger and stronger than you at the point of attack? the teams that are 7-5 can make you look foolish. USC is about to find that out, by the way. It does not matter that the team is an also-ran. It doesn't matter that they're 500. The style makes the fight. And you can just play Purdue on a random Saturday. If they outclass you physically on the line of scrimmage, all the perimeter skill in the world will not save you from that. All the elite DB talent in the world won't save you from that. So with Oregon, I think they're equipped for it. As for the standard, I'm on the wait and see bus on that. I don't know how that's going to feel, and not just with them, with any of these programs. If you lose your 2 key games and you don't go even play for a conference title, but you just kind of take a 9 seed in the playoff, and then you're one and done in the playoff, I don't think folks are celebrating that. Maybe you're celebrating it if it's Missouri or something like that, because I mean that's a novelty aspect, and they've never made it. But even though Oregon hasn't made it since 2014, there have been several years with an expanded playoff they would have been in, and I think those folks know that. So I don't know if that's going to be celebrated. Like, think about last year. Last year, if you lose to Washington twice, you're a playoff team. Oregon would have been a playoff team. How do people feel when they make the playoff? Like, how anticlimactic does that feel?
How many coaches in the Big Ten would you take ahead of Lincoln Riley?
I'd take the guy at Oregon. I'd take the guy at Ohio State. I'm telling you right now, if we got football people in the room, there would be a fascinating debate of Lincoln Riley versus Greg Schiano, because the entire coaching industry thinks highly of Greg Schiano at Rutgers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what they would say. They'd say Rutgers. I say, no. I didn't say I'd take Rutgers over USC. I'm talking about the coaches. I'm trying to think. So, like, there would also be argument, how do you classify Kirk Ferentz at Iowa? Because he's had more consistency. What I would say is I'd still take Riley, because although there may be more fluctuation in the result, I think the high end, the ceiling with Lincoln Riley is higher. It's high enough that I'll take the risk. Don't know anything about Sharon Moore.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Look, here's another fascinating case study coming up. How are we talking about Matt Rule another year or two from now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Fill in the blank for me on that. I don't know.
If you went to it by just achievement, I'm just curious to hear the explanation why you'd go Lanning over Riley. Just because Riley's at least had, the Oklahoma, the USC stuff, and I know last year wasn't great. He's had the Heisman winners. What makes it for Lanning over Riley for you?
He is more relentless as a recruiter. He emphasizes acquiring and developing talent on the defensive side. And if they have a bad game defensively, they're not sleeping until they fix it. If USC has a bad game defensively, in the past, like up to this point, they've just shrugged their shoulders and said, oh, well, at least we scored a lot. And that's, for me personally, not the kind of brand that I'd want to be buying into. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk down there at Southern California about how they're undergoing this whole philosophy shift. And maybe they are, and I'm totally fine giving benefit of the doubt. But I'll have to see it. I'll just put it that way.
The speaker series going to roll out to the Northwest. It's a question everybody wants to know the answer to.
All right, are you ready? Does anyone have a drum roll, or can someone just do it with their mouth? Okay, the answer is yes. Within the next month, we will be out there.
Hey,
go,
Trent Bray. All right, welcome to Corvallis again. Josh Pate, huh? Yeah.
Hey, we all saw that fist pump in Seattle. I'm sure Husky fans didn't let you, hear the end of that one after the way that game ended and the Pate model and the JP poll and all that. But it'll be good to see you in Eugene, Pate.
It's my Zapruder film. That's what that's become for me. I didn't even know there was a grassy knoll behind me. I certainly didn't know anyone was recording.
I could talk to you for another hour on a lot of things that we didn't even touch on in this interview, but I'll get you out of here with this one because I know you're super busy, man, and we always appreciate the time. Would Meemaw bet a future on the Beavs and Cougs getting back into a power conference?
Meemaw never believed on betting anything west of the Mississippi, so she wouldn't. And that was just a personal thing with her. Man, how do we define power conference?
You know what I mean. Come on.
Look,
not the Pac-2. Not the Pac-2.
Yeah, I used to. Okay, so in that case, no. Look, it all depends on if the Big Ten and SEC were to just do this whole split away thing. At that point, that's my question. Like, if that were to happen, what do we call a power conference? Do we call what the Big 12 and ACC, the remainder of the ACC, is a power conference? I don't even know that we would use that terminology anymore. I don't think there is a world, as I see it right now, where those two are hopping back into a premier conference anytime soon.
Okay. Good stuff. Josh Pate, Late Kick with Josh Pate. He's on the road right now. He's got a bunch of great interviews on YouTube. Go find the latest show where he talks about ESPN, the new media deal, and his interviews with the coaches are fantastic. Find him on Twitter at Late Kick, Josh. Josh, we always appreciate the time. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch up with you maybe closer to fall camp.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, there we go. Josh Pate, Late Kick with Josh Pate. Went a little long there. Let's a couple things we can react to of what he said there. We'll talk about that. We'll dive back into the tournament. Maybe touch on the Shohei Ohtani stuff. We'll Sprague the line as well. So send the Sprague the line sponsors in at the Vancouver Ford text line. Dirt and Sprague back with more on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
thefan.com. A quick update as well, very quick. Head out if you have nowhere to watch the games and you're looking for some fun stuff to do, some action, some TV, some food, some drink. Head out to our Fan Madness out at A, the Stadium Sportsbook. I'm going to head out there today after the show, hang out for a couple games, lay a couple bets, probably lose my money. I asked my wife what my allowance was. Firm $100. Said, you know what? You're probably making the right call, but not $250.
100. You could make some moves of $100. How much is that is going to be gambling on the games? How much of that? All games.
Yeah, because I made a mistake last year.
You don't want to go sit at a blackjack table for 20 minutes?
I don't have enough money for the blackjack table, and then I was hammering red too hard on the old roulette.
See, I think that's what you do. She gives you $100. You walk straight to a roulette table. You put $100 on red or black, and then you're either done or you've already doubled your money.
Yeah, it went pretty quickly. I'm a pretty bad gambler, as we find out every Friday at 8:30. So I will be out there. Fan Madness presented by George McCoy at Warren Allen Attorneys at Law. Injuries and missing work ruining your day. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com. He'll make them pay. Isaac Suk, Danny Dusty doing their shows live out there today as well. I was going to talk Ohtani here, but good stuff from Josh Pate.
Man, it felt good. That was a palate cleanser I needed.
Dude, I've been saying this, and the text line told me while you were gone, shut up. It's not happening. I love talking football. I do
too.
I take like a 2-week break, and then I'm right back plugged into it. The NFL free agency stuff, the draft is approaching, and college football, as we've noted on this program for at least 4 years now, it is a 365 sport. Takeaways from Peyton, what he said?
The Lanning Lincoln Riley stuff was interesting. The Greg Schiano Lincoln Riley stuff was interesting when you asked him how many Big Ten coaches would he take ahead of him. It sounds like he's not fully buying into some of the defensive changes that he's made, and he's got a new DC, and that's supposed to be his focal point. Like, I tend to agree with Josh there. Like, I'll believe it when I see it. That's always been a weakness. It's always been your kryptonite. Maybe you finally have realized that, and this is the year you address it. But I also think that's such a wholesale change that it doesn't happen in one-off season. Like, there has to be a recruiting philosophy, a development philosophy. Everything that you have to do has to be focused on that side of the ball. And until you have that for philosophy for a couple of years, I don't see big gains being made. So I thought that was crazy. There's no chance Billy Napier keeps his job. 0. They go 6-6 at best. Florida will not keep him if they go 6-6.
Also, we have this time constraint sometimes. They get in the way. I would have followed up on the Dion question I asked. Where's he going? And I would say, Josh, I know it might sound crazy to you, and you are far more plugged in than I. Florida's starting to smell like Nebraska and Tennessee a little bit here. And I think Florida is a great job, but I'm starting to wonder if they're getting in their own way. It's been a minute, man.
Yeah.
If you go look at the history, and Florida's had some okay seasons, some fine seasons. Mullen didn't work. They have not had success to the level they want since Herbs. So, if you told me Florida fired Napier, and coaches respect him, maybe Napier will land on his feet and be okay. You told me Florida keeps getting weird, and they are the weirdest state in the union, and hired Dion, I wouldn't be shocked. He's got the Florida State ties, so it's kind of funny to throw that in their face. They want to join the SEC. And talk about high school recruiting, he doesn't need to fly anywhere. He can have his luxury SUV just roll past a high school on a Friday night and watch those games. You don't even have to get out of the SUV. So, I think there is places that would maybe take on Dion. Florida's just a weird place right now. And the fact that they can't figure this out and that they're not going to be patient, it kind of lends itself to what it's been. No patience, fired. Come on in. No patience, fired. You're not going to you're not going to build success that way.
Next guy.
Let alone sustain it. The funny thing about Lanning I want to get to, I don't root for the Ducks, but what I would say is there's two people that remind me of each other right now in sports, and coincidentally, they're tied to the same university. It's Dan Lanning and Herbert. And I once in a while will go, well, how do you know Herbert's really that good? I'm like, because I watch. I don't know. Cannon arms, 6'5", mobile.
I have eyeballs.
Tough as nails. Just because you don't win at the highest level doesn't mean you never will. And I think a lot of us make this mistake. It's why I won't go in that hard on Lamar. Lamar's always good when he plays. The team's always good. And if you don't win a Super Bowl, yeah, okay. Neither did Marino. but he puts them in a position to at least have that shot.
Yeah.
You know it when you see it. And I've been saying this, again, not rooting for Oregon in any way. I watch what these coaches are doing, and that guy in Eugene is a psychopath. He is plugged in differently, right? And so, like, when people talk about Lanning, I know the pushback exists. Come on, what has he won? A lot of recruiting battles. He's top 10 in recruiting. He's top 5 in recruiting. He's in the Pac-12 title game. He continues to just replace certain guys with experience while building the most important areas of your team. And so, like, I think Herbert and Lanning, coincidentally, are kind of viewed in the same way. There's a lot of, like, splits on them. And my take is maybe they won't win the biggest of games, but you just know it when you see it. And for those guys, I kind of just know it because I see it.
Well, and the other counterpoint to that, too, is how many coaches win the biggest games in their first 2 years in college football? Name the list.
Well, I can't name the
First
list.
2 years as a head coach in college football are as good as could possibly at the highest level of the sport.
Well, I was going to use Calipari. They show him on First Take. Yeah, he underachieved. His record's like 830 and 240. And I'm like, underachieved because he has one title. Now, should he get to a Final Four, Elite Eight? Yes. But one title. Football, basketball, to me, it doesn't matter. It's so damn hard to win that thing that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart make you think, well, why aren't we winning multiple chips? It's like, well, you're not Bama and Georgia.
I think we've gotten to the point now, right, where there's only 2 active head coaches in college football with a national championship.
Is it Smart and Dabo?
Yeah. Is there one that I'm forgetting?
I'm trying to think.
Because Saban won basically every title. He's gone, obviously.
As a head coach, I think you might be right, unless there's an old that we're just forgetting.
There's
that's
2 in the entire sport.
That's crazy. Wow, I didn't think about that.
That's all we got left. Like, because Orgeron won one with LSU. He's gone, obviously. He's not coaching anymore.
Yeah. Brian Kelly didn't win one.
Brian Kelly has not won one. Jim Harbaugh just won. He's gone, as we mentioned.
Ryan hasn't won
Ryan
one.
Day has not won one.
That's insane to think about.
There's 2 active head coaches who have won a national title. And I am just as guilty of doing this as anybody else. So I shouldn't glass house it, but I will a little bit because it's my school. Like, what have I spent many months of the last year saying about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh leading up to the national championship? Like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. What has Jim Harbaugh won, huh? What has Jim Harbaugh won? He gets to the playoff. He loses to TCU.
It's hilarious from him.
He goes and he loses, gets blown out by Georgia. Like, give me a break. They're not going to win the national title. Jim Harbaugh can't win the big one. And this is one of those things that Pate argues a lot that I actually firmly agree with, is you have to replace the word can't with hasn't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's not a can't thing. It's like Lamar can't win a Super Bowl. He hasn't won a Super Bowl yet.
Yes.
Jim Harbaugh can't win a championship. It's like, no, he just hasn't won one yet. And then he gets in the right spot, right matchups, and he finds a way to win. And then the idiots like me who question it just have to shut up. You're like, oh, okay, he can obviously win it. He just hadn't done it yet to that point.
We'll probably pivot out into, I don't know where Dirt wants to take this. We got Sprague in line about an hour from right now, so get the sponsors in. You know what's funny? It would be hilarious to play this show back to 4 years ago, Dirt and Sprague, because I don't think either one of us would have believed our future selves. You were questioning, what has he won with Harbaugh? You, of all the people saying that out loud, is not something I heard the first 3-4 seasons of his tenure at Michigan.
When everybody wanted to run him out, I called him idiots and defended him.
And on the reverse of that, on my end, I love Lincoln Riley, and I'm also admitting I need to see defense be even decent to believe that that's actually going to take a step in the right direction.
Especially in the Big Ten, man.
Oh, I know. So I tend to believe Ohio State's the best team. Oregon's a very close second, but I think Ohio State's the best. He has a new kid, Jeremiah Smith. Have you seen this kid?
He's an all-world player.
Nemec put out some video. I'm like, good God, of course they.
I think he was the number 1 recruit in the country.
I believe he is. Shows you how much I follow recruiting that closely. But I saw it. I'm like, oh, of course, they've got that nice piece. But it's just funny that we have flipped these positions on guys we were both defending in different parts on this show.
Well, and it's one of those reminders, too, of a guy like Ryan Day, because we do this to Ryan Day. He can't win the big one. Ryan Day can't. He just hasn't done it yet. They're giving themselves chances every year, and eventually they will break through. They damn near beat Georgia in the playoff 2 years ago. He's been to a national championship game. He's won a playoff game. They could have won 2 of those games against Michigan that were back and forth games. Like, he's going to have cracks at it, and eventually he will kick down that door.
Lincoln will win when he has a stout defense. Day will win when he stops dyeing his beard and accepts the gray. When that happens, he will take the step. He'll be in his zaddy phase, and he will dominate the dojo. Back with more Dirt and Sprague. Sprague in line an hour from now on 1080 The Fan.
Now, from Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Butcher Shop and Steakhouse. Their butchers, all trained chefs, eager to help with cooking advice. Get to know your friendly neighborhood butcher online at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on the Fan, the Oregon Ducks pulling off the huge upset win over 6-seeded South Carolina in round one of the Big Dance, 87-73 the final. Jermaine Cousinard going absolutely off with 40 points. It's the most for any Oregon player in tournament history, and Paulie Dante added 23. The Ducks moving on to face 3-seed Creighton tomorrow. And day two of the men's tourney tipping off at 9:15 today, but the women's tournament getting going as well. 3-seed Oregon State facing off against 14-seed Eastern Washington. The Beavers are 18.5-point favorites. Tip off for that one at 5. You can watch it on ESPNU. Don't forget, though, the 13th-seeded Portland Pilots taking on 4-seed Kansas State. They are 22.5-point underdogs. Pre-game getting going with our own Jason Swigard at 1 p.m. over on 910 ESPN, with tip-off at 1:30 on ESPN News. In the association, the Trailblazers hitting the court again tonight for the second of a back-to-back against the Clippers at Moda Center. No Malcolm Brogdon and Shaden Sharp. Jeremy Grant doubtful. Matisse Thybulle questionable. And Ant Simons probable. Clips are 12.5-point favorites. Tip-off at 7 on Root Sports. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The home of prime time with Isaac and Sue. Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising! After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And who's the best?
It wasn't the internet, and it wasn't the warehouse club.
But?
It was video only.
For corrections, we forgot one. Mac Brown,
Yes.
still coaching.
Were they 6-6 last year? They were pretty bad.
They were terrible. They were in the preseason dirty poll. They disappointed me. So I'm still taking Drake May over Caleb Williams, though.
You're still on that stance, huh?
Yeah, why the hell not?
You should have heard Merrill Hodge talk about him.
About Drake May or Caleb Williams?
Drake May.
Is he out on Drake May?
Caleb, he says he just wouldn't take with the first pick. He says he's really good, but not that kind of good.
I was jelly you had Merrill Hodge on. I always loved him and his big tie knots.
His Windsor knot.
Yeah.
I made a reference to it. I don't think he enjoyed that joke.
Really? He probably gets that a lot.
I go, Merrill, I'm imagining you in the Windsor knot because I miss seeing you on my TV. And he was like, well, just pretend I'm in it.
It's a pretty dry answer.
It's Merrill Hodge.
That's true.
He, by the way, said he'd come back on the show.
Oh, let's hold him to that word.
He'd only scouted quarterbacks at that point, so I couldn't talk about some of the line prospects.
Okay. They were 8-5, by the way. North Carolina was,
but they had huge expectations.
They did.
He said he's not even sure if Drake May's a top 3 round quarterback. He processes slowly. He basically made it sound like mentally he doesn't read the field very well.
He's not good at all.
He didn't say that, but yeah.
I mean, that's basically what he's saying.
I guess.
24 touchdowns, 9 picks. He's out. What the hell? Me versus Merrill Hodge. Why? I don't know, but let's keep
You're the
riding
new
that
Skip
trick.
Bayless.
I'm the new Skip Bayless.
Johnny Football.
Johnny Football is going to be bigger in Cleveland than LeBron James. You give him 2 years. Give him 2 years, he's going to dominate the NFL. You're making the mistake of a lifetime not using a number 1 overall pick on this guy.
Truly in the running for one of the worst takes to ever be uttered by any human breathing oxygen is that Johnny Football is going to be bigger in Cleveland than LeBron James.
Yeah, Mac Brown, good on, what was that, 2006 Texas beat USC?
Vince Young, horns up. They should have won in 09, but Colt McCoy got hurt. Remember Garrett
very
Gilbert?
Well could have won that game.
Or was it Gilbert Garrett?
Garrett Gilbert, I believe.
Eating Gilbert grape. That guy almost beat Alabama.
Yeah, and everybody made fun of Colt McCoy for not coming back in. So they said he was soft, protecting his future.
Didn't he have like a broken collarbone or something?
Yeah, get your ass out there, you pansy. It's a national championship game.
Could he throw?
This is Texas.
Put some dirt on it.
I thought I remember he legitimately couldn't throw the ball.
I thought
very
so
far,
too.
but-
I thought his shoulder was like out.
Okay.
All right, eating Gilbert grape it is.
I want to read a thought here, and I want to get your guys' reactions to it. I also have a fun, conversation question that we can get to in a moment, and just noodle on this one. What's more annoying that people talk about to you? Like brought up unsolicited in conversation.
It's either crypto or politics.
Their fantasy football team?
No, that's up there.
Or their bracket?
The bracket, I'm okay. I'll tell you why the bracket. It is a easy kind of lean in and just talk about it, and yeah, you talk about it a lot. I fill one out, so I at least have a reference point.
But a lot of people have fantasy. We used to play fantasy football.
Yeah,
if somebody just comes up to you irrationally, he's like, "Dude, guess who I took yesterday? Huh? You want here? Why don't you take a look at my bracket, Brandon?" So in the 12-5 matchup in the South region, I personally have James Madison winning that game.
I can see how that eventually gets to an exhaustive point where you're like, I don't care.
I feel like D-Bag would do that with fantasy football or the bracket, though. That's the
they totally would.
That's
it's the same person.
Same guy.
Fantasy's worse.
So what you would rather hear about somebody's bracket than their fantasy football team?
Yes, because guess what? They will shut up after a day.
That's a good point.
Fantasy football is months of how you could be a general manager in the National Football League because you properly rate the waiver wire.
We need to start support groups for sports. Maybe this can be our rallying cry for 2024 now that I'm back. It needs to be like one of those Progressive commercials or Geico commercials of we need to sit these fantasy football people down, have them in a room and ask them, why do you think other people care about your fantasy football team?
Well, I think also they just need to, in different cities, they just need to create the big obvious event that they've wanted to do, but they just are afraid or they don't want to publicly. About had it seeing these punishments of fantasy football losses. You want to have a drag show? Have a drag show. Clearly, all of you guys are in on wearing a dress in case you lose or getting your nipple pierced, and that's okay. But just have a big get-together and make it more fun. I don't need to see you in a short skirt at a golf course. Just go to a bar, get up with the other losers, and have a wicked, cool, kick-ass drag show. The fantasy drag show. That's what we need at this point because I'm tired of seeing it randomly all over.
Do we need to do nipple piercings for next year's Civil War bet?
I'm not. No.
That's
I
not
know
happening
somebody
for
in a
me.
league, by the way.
Come on, Schultze. Let's
No.
get kinky.
I know somebody that's in a league that was the punishment. They had to pierce the nipple.
Like permanently or just for a while?
What do they?
You can take it out.
Can you give
eventually.
me the while piercing?
Well, how long do you have to keep it in?
6 months, a year, 2 years.
Because you can eventually take the earring out or the nipple ring out.
I don't know if they had to keep it in longer than a couple weeks, but yeah. I mean, I've seen some crazy punishments here.
Get you some tassels dangling down
Yeah,
from
we
your
go
nipples.
in loopies. We go in like diamond little studs.
I think
Like
we're onto
there's
something here.
Yeah.
there's
How many
lots of
points you could
rules.
ask for next year? I think we should do this as our bet.
To me, it's fantasy football.
Yeah, it's
and
not even close.
I'm not even sure it's a contest.
Not even close. I want to read this thought. We can react to it on the other side. I want to dive into the tournament a little bit more. We will Sprague the line in the final hour. Some lingering thoughts on Shohei Ohtani.
Haven't even talked about the Cougs comeback.
No, we got to get to the Cougs. This was a text that came in from a P1 at the Vancouver 4 text line. These games are painful. The rules suck. The refs are horrible. Coaches are all beyond annoying, and for some reason, they get the credit as if they're a starting pitcher or a quarterback. There's no great teams. Everybody's mediocre. None of these are actually upsets. One mediocre team just has a lower number beside it because of history. It's impossible to keep up with the rosters from year to year. The last 5 minutes is watchable until it turns into free throw after free throw, followed by a review, and wait for it, a defensive timeout on the inbounds. But there's no point in saving them because you can't advance the GD ball. Gambling and regional rooting interests are the only reasons why this thing is still popular. It's for damn sure not because of the product. Sorry for the long text. Just venting.
Hey, you know what? Shout out to the vent. That was a great vent text.
We love a good vent.
We have shared how we feel about the sport. I think there's a lot of dumb things they could easily. This is why I actually this year, and it helps that I have daughters, so I'm a little different here. Women advance the ball in timeouts. It's quite amazing, actually.
Why are they allowed to do it, but the men aren't?
Women also have quarters.
I mean, I know that.
They have figured out how to do this a little better, and the men are still like, hey, you're down 3. There's 4 seconds left. Timeout. Great. You're going to inbound a baseline. Go full court.
Right.
Why would we not go half court? They do it in the NBA. They do it in Europe. They do it in the women's basketball.
Right.
Why would we not do this? I don't know. I also hate the score. And then when the other team gets the ball after the score, the team that just scored can still call a timeout. I hate that.
Makes no sense. You don't have possession of the ball.
It makes the game go way too long. It draws it out. Also, there's a lot of truth to what he said. Like, coaching matters, obviously. That goes without saying. Sometimes, though, it's like, hey, Gulky hit 10 threes today. What'd you do, Campy? I told him to shoot. Just shoot. You're a shooter.
Keep shooting.
There's only so much you're going to be able to control when you get out there anyway. So, I think it's a little better, but I understand why that person feels that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of that sentiment out there. These are like the 48 to 72 hours that I put down on hold, and then I remind myself going forward. It's like, it's all right. I don't really like this. But Thursday and Friday of the opening tournament, I'm all in. I watch college basketball all day, and then my bracket's busted, and you go back to not caring. Let's get to those Cougs because we haven't talked about them yet. What a comeback win! A nice little money day for Oregon State and Washington State. They're bringing in millions, baby.
Cha-ching.
You guys are rich over there. What are you going to buy with all your new monies?
Power 4.
Little more tournament talk next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
Last year had to pick up his dribble. 5 to shoot. Davidson lets fly off the mark. Rebound Coleman. Back. Last year it's not his game. And it won't go. And the Dayton Flyers pull off the second half comeback.
CBS Sports there. Dayton was getting blown out by Nevada. They finished the game on a 24-4 run. 4 points in the final 5-6 minutes of this game by Nevada. And to that listener's point, the game kind of sucks when that happens. Dayton completes the comeback. Bye-bye, Steve Alford.
17 unanswered points, I believe, at one point. You also had Colorado State yesterday score 11 points in the first half. 5 years show cause ban. You're banned 5 years, Colorado State.
Who's stinking it up, Nevada? Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Plumbing and electrical service is delightful. Get your time back. Let the pros tackle those projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com. Hey everybody, Sprague here. Is your water heater in good condition? My friends at Three Mountains Plumbing are here to make sure your water heater is working and take care of the plumbing projects you need to get done around your home. Because they want you to have that extra time for yourself, you can fill your free time with things like basketball or upcoming Major League Baseball and not on plumbing projects. Your water heater helps you with everyday tasks like taking hot showers, cooking, washing your hands, and even cleaning. The licensed plumbers at Three Mountains Plumbing can handle your plumbing problems, big or small. So, if your home is experiencing issues getting hot water, reach out to Three Mountains Plumbing. When you use Three Mountains Plumbing, you get quality service with exceptional results. For 23 years, they've been helping homeowners across Portland.
Per month, find your crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. A text at the Vancouver 4 text line saying golf and gambling are both more annoying to get unsolicited conversations started, and now I feel attacked and I have to go into fight or flight mode.
I'll put bird feed on your bug zapper.
I mean, I feel like I've been seen. I feel like it's a personal text right to me because that's all I have.
Here's the situation.
That's all I want to talk about. It's
Really?
bets that I've lost and bad golf rounds that I've had.
I'd rather talk about that than the weather, that's for sure.
I tend
Well,
to
now I feel attacked too because I love talking about the weather. What else you want to make me feel insecure about, Schultz?
traffic.
Well, traffic sucks.
Traffic, weather, golf.
See, I don't really talk too much about traffic. I'm a slow right lane guy. I take my time getting everywhere I go.
I've passed you too many times to count, and I'm always like, I hope he didn't recognize that was me, because I'm not a slow right lane guy.
As long as such a rush for, man, take your time. Listen to your tunes.
I'm naturally a lead foot guy. I don't go like 90, but I'm in the middle lane going a little faster.
As long as you're staying in the right lane and not getting in my way in the fast lane, I don't care.
Although
you do you, baby.
Oh, I'm not in anybody's way. I'm doing my own thing. I follow at the speed of the car in front of me. I don't lag behind. If they're going a little bit above, I'll go above. If they're below, I'll go below.
I have become a granola electric car guy, though. Like, I'm in the middle lane, and I got a car on my ass, and I go to the right. I'm like, what is your problem? That's how my car sounds.
Little soy boy over there.
Yeah, it is.
Where you got your corn, you like planting corn and then shoving it into your thing to charge it. That didn't come out the way that I wanted it.
What?
I'm going to pull that right now.
What?
I'll scissor kick his gizzard.
Can you pull that, please? Because I don't think that made any sense.
I was trying to go like
where am I
what?
shoving my corn?
I was trying to go like an ethanol kind of thing, and it didn't really play out that well. You guys want to talk about my golf game?
I took my mother-in-law to pick up my daughter yesterday because she was bored, and I put it in reverse, and my car has to make a sound because it's quiet, and it's like, ding, 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 and she's freaking out. She's like, where's it coming from? And I'm like, it's reverse. I'm sorry. It's my electric car.
This is the way that it sounds. Hey, how about those Cougs last night, man? I thought they were dead in the water with 6-7 minutes to go, and I was like, what a bummer, dude. Great season. They get to the tournament. Looks like it's going to be not quite enough. Drake, the Fighting Rappers, are going to beat them. And then they got hot. Drake kind of turtled a little bit.
Did they get hot?
I don't know if hot's the right word, but Drake more turtled in the last couple of minutes, and the Cougs are going to the round of 32.
I don't want to say this publicly. I may have said it yesterday, but in case a Coug Ludes is listening, I'm sorry. I picked Drake in that game.
You did, yeah. You took Drake.
Because I watched him beat Indiana State. I had seen Washington State. They had stumbled a little bit at the end, and I'm just like, I think this DeVries kid can do it. The coach's son, that story. And I text you with 6 minutes to go. I have the text. It was like,
you did.
I picked Drake, and I'm sitting here, and I felt bad. I was rooting for Washington State, despite my pick. Damn with my pick. I'd rather the Cougs win that game. A good comeback. I do want to highlight, if we're being honest, Tucker DeVries turtled and flat out choked. He wanted nothing to do with the basketball in the last 2 minutes of that game. He was trying to pass off to his teammates. That's the senior guard guy who should be playing at a bigger school that chose to stay there because his dad's the coach. That was his moment. And unlike Golke, he didn't take it. He's like, here, take it. Hot potato. He wanted nothing to do with it, and then he dribbled off a foot and had a turnover. Kudos to the Washington State Cougars for that win. That comeback was impressive. It felt like they were dead in the water when they got down 8. Kyle Smith, man. Kyle Smith. Miles Rice was okay. I forget the other kid's name that went off for 19 points last night, but that was a good comeback win by them against a pretty experienced Drake team.
It really was. Now they go to the round of 32, and I think this is an interesting story to follow for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, just the finances around what's happening to Washington State and Oregon State, and how do they survive, and what do the next couple of years look like?
Pate did not paint a pretty picture, I think, for
we did
football
not.
fans out there.
But this is kind of our first indicator of, and not that they haven't lost coaches in the past, even when they were in the Pac-12, right? They've lost a lot of coaches over the years. Can you keep Kyle Smith? He has not signed an extension yet. I think he was asked about it again leading into the press conference for this opening game.
He's not going to say anything.
And he did the whole, we'll sit down, we're negotiating, and, hopefully we can come to an agreement. He's giving you that whole song and dance right now. He has been there now. I think this is his 4th or 5th year there. He has slowly built them into a tournament-style team. They're in the second round now, and they get a chance to knock off Iowa State. Brandon Sprague's national champion, Iowa State Cyclones.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Cougs. I don't think they're beating Iowa State.
And they might not, but it's a tournament's crazy. But he has won the first NCAA tournament game at Washington State since 2008.
Yeah.
That was the last time they went and the last time they won.
That was an impressive stat to hear out loud. And Bennett, when he was there, man, that program was pretty consistently annoying for everybody in the Pac-12.
They were. And then he went to Virginia, and they lost their coach.
And when you lose the coach, Smith has highlighted this. Obviously, this year's team is a great example. They lost guys to the portal. This team might have been even better had they not lost those dudes. Yeah. And he's such a good coach. He gets these role guys to step up and kind of fill in those spots. Here's the thing. Where is he going to go? I'm not saying there isn't a job, but is there a job that, because he wanted to get out of the WCC, so he goes to the Pac-12, and now he's back in the WCC, so that probably doesn't feel good. And nobody wants to hear this. I know. I think last night is another reason why, them and the other schools should
Really should.
Lean in.
Yeah.
Look what you can be in this sport.
Yeah.
This sport gives you your greatest opportunity to experience your top end happiness, I think. Now the landscape of college football has changed so damn much that you're so out of it that it's kind of like, okay, well, he beat San Jose State this weekend. Good win. The Hoops program getting their first win since 08 is awesome. I hope he stays. He gave their athletic director a hug last night. I know he's not going to say anything or sign an extension, and maybe a job will open up eventually at some big program that I'm not thinking about or that listeners are pointing out. But I was happy for Washington State fan, man. They've gone through the ringer. Yeah, just some money was collected via the Pac-12 wins yesterday. But nothing beats winning a tournament game in comeback fashion.
Money that you're not going to see. This is way more important.
Like Coug Ludes was highlighting it. He called me. We talked before the game, and he's one of our sales extraordinaires. He's a diehard Cougar. He's like, yeah, Joe Lenardi's fat ass picked against us. So his whole night he was on this vengeance tour against Joe Lenardi and how DeVries is better than Miles Rice. And then he texts me at the end because I sent him the Doc Brown choking gif in Back to the Future 3 about DeVries. And he goes, yeah, about Joe Lenardi's fat ass now. Because he was not taking the Cougars serious enough, I guess.
That is the most Coug Ludes line I've ever heard, man. That is perfect. The guy who once stood up at a Blazer game and yelled, "Trade Myers Leonard." He was a man ahead of his time. He's a wise man. Did you stick your corn in yet?
What were you trying to say?
Don't worry about it, Bob.
Did you pull it, Schultze, or do we have to wait till the break?
I'm waiting.
Okay.
I'm trying. It's like being slow.
No, that's okay. No worries.
Okay.
We have to play it at some point because
we'll play it.
One of the weirdest things you've ever said.
This was her stabbing cabin.
All right, we got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. Let's get back into Oregon and what they did yesterday, advancing to the round of 32. Dana Altman now 8-0 in the first round of the tournament. Where do they go from here? Taking on Creighton tomorrow night. We'll get to Sprague in the line coming up at 8:30. It is a loaded final hour. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan. Let's do this final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app. Live on YouTube. Text to the Vancouver Ford text line. It's okay, Dirt doesn't like college hoops. He doesn't like the NBA either, just doesn't know ball.
You're a white guy from Cleveland High School.
I don't know ball, man.
You don't know ball.
I mean, that's true. I don't know ball. I don't pretend to know ball. Although, on our show, including Jay Billis, who's winning the bracket challenge one day in. You want me to tell you all about my bracket? So here's who I took in the 16-2 matchup. You want to?
Who's more annoying, the bracket guy or fantasy football guy? Let me tell you about my bracket.
14-2 yesterday, man. 14-2.
I just want to beat Jay Billis. All I care about.
That's all that matters.
That's all I wanted. We're going to have a collision course unless there's an upset by Washington State or whoever UConn's playing.
Mm-hmm.
I really need to beat Jay Billis.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest basketball guy. This time of year can get tough for me. That's why I like sprinkling in a little Josh Pate here or there. Let's give him a little palate cleanser, a little bit of football. My baseball is around the corner. My golf is currently happening. So I got enough things to keep me satisfied as a sports fan. I do watch a lot of the NBA playoffs, and those are right around the corner. I'm very excited for them.
I just hope collectively as sports fans, because this is a sports program, I do hope when the playoffs come, and I'm not a fan of the first round being 7. I think it should be 3.
Yes.
I think second should be 5, and then do 7 for conference and finals. That's my take. If I was to try to tweak things in the NBA, I'd start there. And I know TV windows, advertising, all of that changes, Sprague. They will never do it. Okay, cool, but
sense of urgency is what you need in that sport.
Urgency, I think, gets you more eyeballs. Either way, I hope when the playoffs are here, I think they're going to be fantastic, especially in the West. I hope we're all going to pay attention so we can talk about it because I don't want to be alone there.
That's the time of year where basketball matters. Right now, it doesn't matter. I hate to break it to you.
I'm not offended by it. I only caught a little
Milwaukee
bit of,
got smoked the other night by Boston. Giannis didn't play. Like, does that mean that they're going to lose the series in the playoffs?
Yeah, but he came back last night. Dame looked good. Dame's looking good.
They're playing really good.
Dame's looking good.
Look at that. There's your NBA talk right there. How about those Oregon Ducks, Brandon Sprague? How about your Oregon Ducks? They're going to the second round of the tournament. Dane Altman has been to the tournament 8 times now as the head coach at Oregon. He is now 8-0 in the first round. He has never lost a first-round game, and they advanced past South Carolina 87-73.
Is anybody surprised?
Shouldn't be.
They were like, I think it was 1.5 to
They were
start,
favored.
And then by the time it closed, it was a 2.5 point favorite.
Yeah, that was the thing
Oregon.
is we didn't have, like, for a large portion of the day, we didn't have a lot of upsets, according to Vegas, the odds makers. And that was one for me that if you could have been at A-Lene or in a different state with the app working, you hammer the Ducks with plus money at the Open. I didn't see South Carolina almost at all at any one point this year. I saw them flame out a little bit in the SEC conference tournament, and they play boring basketball. I'm just going to take Dane Altman blindly every time in the opening round, and we'll see what Creighton is. Creighton is really well coached. If you could have replaced an Altman with anybody, they did a perfect job of that.
They dominated Akron yesterday.
And I think it was Matt Preem had said that they didn't look overly athletic in person, that Creighton was maybe a little less than. That's the thing about the tournament. It's about smarts. It's about how experienced you can be and are. And that's kind of what Creighton's going to serve up. I'm still going to take Oregon, though. I think Oregon can get to a Sweet 16. And we'll probably get to that point and say, why can't they win this game either?
Yeah, it was great to see Kuznard go off the way that he did. Some of the numbers behind it, by the way, remarkable. He's the first guy on a double-digit seeded team in the tournament to go for 40 since Steph Curry. I also saw, I want to pull this one up, make sure I got it right. He's the first player in 35 years to put up 40 points and 5 assists in an NCAA tournament game.
What's a bigger throwback for you? Just saying the name Steph Curry when talking about college basketball, or Googling Steph Curry at Davidson and reminding us that we all wore shorts to our ankles?
We did.
Oh, God.
That was the look, man.
It was the look. I will defend
baggy.
myself in high school. I was wearing double XL T-shirts. It was stupid.
Well, the baggy extra long
So stupid.
shorts. Remember the Air Jordans that they made
Yes.
extra long for
Oh,
you?
yeah.
God.
They were like capris, man.
I can't believe we played basketball in them. I'm surprised we'd have more turnovers with the ball getting caught in our shorts.
Yeah, how did anybody dribble under their legs? That's a good question.
I don't know, but we figured it out.
Go back and watch those Ohio State Florida national title highlights.
Oh, let me show you one. So
the
yesterday,
Greg Oden versus. I mean, those shorts
No.
would go down to their ankles.
I'll give you one.
They're worse than that.
So who did Kusinard beat for the Oregon record?
Oh, it was a dude from like 1977,
No,
wasn't it?
no,
For the all-time scoring record?
no. For Oregon
For like most points in a game?
in a tournament game.
Oh, Tawan Porter.
Look
yeah,
at Tawan Porter.
Yeah, Tawan Porter.
Those shorts were down to his
Well,
ankles.
he's
And-
so small too.
Oh, he's like 5'7". I'll never forget. I was working at a smoothie shop in that UNLV game when he just went off. And I was like, how about Tawan Porter, huh?
Dude, Tawan Porter was awesome.
I loved Tawan Porter.
That
I hope
was-
he's still making money somewhere.
Yeah, is he still playing somewhere overseas? Do we have at least found Tawan Porter yet? See where
Where
he's
is
at?
Tawan Porter? I found out where Kevin Pittsnoggle is. I thought about reaching out for an interview.
I did see that he's selling insurance now.
No.
Or he's a principal. It's something like,
He's a vice principal in West Virginia.
This is the best part about the tournament, because we had this with the guy at Oakland, is that you get these guys, like, you're playing against some of them, all NBA, maybe basketball Hall of Famers on the other side of the floor, and then on the other side, it's like, this guy's going to sell insurance in 6 years, but he has his moment in the sun, and he makes a bunch of three-pointers.
It sounds like he played overseas for a while, and now he's coaching Tawan Porter.
Hell yeah, dude. Tawan Porter was great. Those teams were a lot of fun. And this is, I mean, this team has a chance to go on a run. I think we all kind of felt that going in. You want to look at your bracket? That's Swag's bracket.
I just wanted to look at the
Any
potential. So it's Tennessee or Texas, right?
Tennessee or Texas is if you get through Creighton, it would be the winner of Tennessee,
Yeah.
Texas. And Rick Barnes looked good in round 1, but he's a 2 seed against a 15. Like, let's all believe that when I see it. Rick Barnes doesn't have a great track record, but that kind of connects to a point that I really enjoy bringing up, and not to beleaguer the argument that we've had about Dana Altman, but one of the things that you can definitely say is true about his teams is there's times it feels like they underachieve in the regular season, and a lot of those seasons are 20 to 23 wins instead of 26 to 29 wins, kind of, right? There's a lot of that. There's going to be lulls throughout the course of the regular season. That's kind of the negative side of the coin that you have to take. The positive side of the coin is there's a lot of coaches that you get to this time of year and you just don't have much faith in their teams. Like, Rick Barnes is a prime example of this. How long has Rick Barnes been a coach at a major college basketball program?
Long time at Texas, and now Tennessee. It's been a few years now at Tennessee as well.
And does anybody have any faith in Rick Barnes going on a deep run?
No, he's easily every single year one of the most obvious fade this guy in the big game, big moment coaches.
Sean Miller was this way at Arizona. I know he got to, I know at least the one Elite Eight, but you're like,
Yeah.
dude, these teams are loaded. You're number 1 seeds. Like, how do you always fall short?
Well, Barnes has at least been to a Final Four, right? I believe the
he went to-
TJ Ford year
Yes.
at Texas. I believe he was the coach of that team.
God, dude, this guy has
know.
been a head coach at a major college basketball program from Clemson.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Providence technically counts too.
Yeah, the Friars.
Since 1988.
Yes.
With a year off here or there, maybe in between some jobs. I mean, look, no, he's gone straight from every
Straight.
program into every program. He has been a major college basketball coach since 1988. He's been to one Final Four.
I mean, it is
That's the year before I was born.
That's, to be fair, very hard to get there.
Sure.
But yes, always.
There's
one
only
of those
one other
coaches.
Elite Eight.
Well,
He's been to one Elite Eight and one Final Four since 1988.
we have like a vengeance game, Texas versus Tennessee.
That we do. We have Altman against his old team and Rick Barnes against
Yeah,
his old team.
That's a nice little setup for us. Well, by the way, side note, should he be disqualified? He put NCU, not UNC, and he has him in the final, and he wrote NCU.
Yeah, we got issues
5
here.
times.
Jason Swigard, when filling out his bracket, instead of writing UNC,
He wrote NCU.
he wrote NCU.
North
5
Carolina
times.
University.
Yes.
That's
5
like,
times.
That's like the offshoot community college down Tobacco Road. That is not
Yeah.
the same school. I don't even know if that actually
I think
exists.
NCU is like Northern Colorado University. I'd
But who
imagine that
doesn't-
counts.
Who doesn't know North Carolina's UNC?
One of the most known acronyms
Yeah.
in all of college athletics.
Yeah.
He also did not fill out the winner. He took Oregon to lose to South Carolina and did not fill out the winner of the South Carolina Creighton game, and so I'm not giving him credit for that.
I don't mean to be mean. I know he's calling the women's game today, which good luck to the Lady Pilots. I feel like he should be disqualified here. You didn't properly fill out your bracket, dude.
And NCU.
NCU in a blank spot?
A bunch of listeners noticed that yesterday, and I'm like, wait, what? And then I looked at it, I'm like, he wrote NCU.
It's almost as bad as the Fiesta Bowl having UO when Joey Harrington played in his final game. Remember, it was Colorado, but for the first half,
Yeah.
ABC had it like UC and UO. What the hell are we doing here?
Good stuff. Well, Oregon advances. How far are they going to make it? Lose this weekend? Sweet 16, Elite 8? How far does this thing go?
I think it'd be a little risky, dangerous to overlook Creighton, but I also
Oh, totally.
think people don't care because it's the tournament. I think they get to Sweet 16.
Sweet 16?
Yeah.
Okay. Schulte?
You know what,
You
guys?
still feeling it? You still sniffing it?
As part of my crow eating plate yesterday, I decided, because I was still filling out my bracket as we were doing the show, I decided to put the Duckies in the Final Four. So let's go.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to turn around my. You know what? I'm trying to offer some positivity out there, turn around my negativity, and show people out there that I can be happy. Which I've made very, very big comments about really awesome things for the Mariners, for the Ducks. Like, it just sucks that all the negativity is just what people remember. So I'm going Ducks, baby, Final Four.
It's you're wearing a Duck shirt too.
It's a good text. Somebody said swag spelling won't matter because NCU will go down to UMS tomorrow. Like UMS is going to get them, man. The mighty University of Michigan State. All righty, let's get to I want to loop back around to the Ohtani story, and then let's take a little peekaboo at the ladies tournament, which tips off today.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, local schools go today.
We all begin today, so we'll take a look at that. And why is baseball not doing anything? That's next on The Fan.
The best
The fallout continues as the Dodgers and Padres head back from South Korea, where they split their first 2 games, and now we get this random few days before baseball officially begins, which will happen next week.
Is there a happier person in the world leaving Korea than Yamamoto that this story popped up? Because, man, he looked like crap.
You spent that much on that guy? Although some pitchers have had bad debuts. I'm not going to throw him out yet, but he did look horrible yesterday morning. And I don't know. This is one of the weirder stories that I've seen in quite some time, mainly because you have so many unanswered questions. Now, Shohei Ohtani, if you didn't follow, I'm sure everybody's heard of it by now. His interpreter reportedly stole money, although the initial story was that Ohtani lent him the money to pay off gambling debts, about $4.5 million to an illegal bookie down in California. That illegal bookie is under investigation by the FBI, and they saw these wire transfers with Ohtani's name on it, and that's how he got swept up into this. They went and they're like, hey, you want to tell us why you're wiring an illegal bookie $4.5 million?
That's a federal law, by the way.
Yes.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. And so they had these conversations. He said, I lent the money, or the translator initially said he lent me the money to help me out of a bad situation. And then everybody got wind of it, and he said, no. He stole the money, and now they're investigating this theft.
Well,
at least that's what they're claiming. They're trying to get to the bottom of this.
This is weird. They did kind of throw him under the bus, but they're just calling it massive theft. But they didn't say the interpreter stole money. They just said there's been massive theft.
Right.
It's like an open-ended term for, was it the bookie? Was it this guy? I don't know.
Could have been anything. Who the hell knows what happened? Well, he was asked after the game that, a bunch of reporters were there in South Korea yesterday when all this was going on. His interpreter's not there. He just spoke very short phrases in Japanese on his way out, basically saying no comment, or I'm not going to talk about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dodgers would not allow anybody to ask him any questions. At some point, we have to have answers on this. And the other part of it that I'm wondering, at what point does baseball say or do something here?
Well, baseball needs to be on his side because of the cash cow he has become.
Do they, though? Is this...
no, I'm not...
What if it comes out that he
no.
was gambling? What if it comes out that he was the one and it wasn't a problem from the translator?
To not have a lawsuit happen the way that Pujols randomly sued a radio host in St. Louis once for alleging PED use.
Allegedly.
Let's just get ahead of this. Allegedly. Can you pull that for me, Schultz? We'll just play that before we talk about things. There is not any element of this story that makes sense, and that lends me to believe the worst thing happened here. He got caught, and he had a fall guy. Now, did this other guy gamble with him? Yeah. You know what's funny is reading about this story yesterday, because I just think this is the biggest story in sports. And I know not everybody cares about baseball and Ohtani, whatever. Japanese Babe Ruth exists, and he's better. And for him to be involved in this is wildly insane. But it doesn't make any sense at all that you would allow him to speak and then you shut it down and say that it's not true. And the messaging is wrong. All of the tea leaves of this thing suggest that this is Ohtani related, that this is not just the situation, but that he was a part of this.
Yeah.
There was video caught of them in the dugout at an Angels game doing the Jordan security guard thing. They tossed a baseball in the dugout and tried to get it to sit on one of the steps. And they're clearly having a competition with this, and Ohtani's winning, and he beats his interpreter. There's another story written about him and the interpreter. They spend 365 days a year together.
Yes, they're basically brothers.
He said that this guy lives with me. We see each other every single day. There is not a world where if that's true, you didn't know that this was happening at all. He made a huge mistake the first time allowing the guy to talk with obvious details that were written out for him. And I don't know what baseball does here. Because this is Pete Rose 2.0 to me. This is how I'm viewing this.
If you were a commissioner, would there be an indefinite suspension? Let's just let's get to the bottom of this.
I think he needs to be I think personally, if you take the moral stance of it, he's suspended indefinitely until you can get this figured out. But he means so much to their TV viewership numbers and their gate numbers. Nobody in the Dodgers will talk. Nobody in this sport has talked at all about this except the reporters.
Are they in the opening States game? I'm assuming.
I would
or
imagine
is it the Rangers?
One of the primetime games.
Because I know they usually do the defending
night one.
World Series champion.
I can see the Rangers opening because they're in Texas and the Dodgers closing because they're in L.A.
And I'm trying to check
this
in
up.
on what the MLB policy is for like suspensions if you are caught gambling, like on baseball. Obviously, just like Pete Rose, he denied it for 15 years, but Shohei's interpreter says he's not betting on baseball. Rule 21 outlines a 1-year ban from the sport up to permanent ineligibility. So
Yeah.
we haven't heard MLB say anything. You kind of wonder if those discussions are going on behind the scenes.
They're clinching. Schulte, they're on the phone all day panicking about this
but
right now.
Usually an acknowledgement comes out by this point from any league and saying,
Yes.
hey, you know what? Hey, it's a really crappy statement, but we're gathering the facts and we're letting things play out. We haven't even heard that yet.
I'm not saying this is the most trusted source in the world because, well, the internet's the internet. RJ Choppy is a guest that we've had on here before. He hosts a radio show in Dallas. He quote tweeted a guy that's very familiar with the sports gambling scene. And this is kind of the problem. He's like, there's not a legitimate bookie that exists if a guy's making 300 that's bankrolling 4.5. That doesn't make any sense. None of this story adds up. None of it.
You got to know where the money's coming from. When you're working with that big of amounts, it's like when Mattress Mac, for instance, the guy that bets on the Houston Astros from Texas and then uses it to give away free mattresses, everybody knows when he's walking to the casino, they know he's got a business making $30 million a year. That $500,000's fine. You don't make these behind the door deals unless you know exactly where the money's
And the
at.
crazy part about that, you read every trusted writer in baseball, like Ken Rosenthal. I just went through his article through the show. I mean, he highlights what punishments could be, Bauer's suspension, the interpreter part, all of it. It doesn't end with anything. It just, the money may come with a cost. Like, even the most plugged in people, they can't get anything on this.
No.
It's just what we know, and that's it right now because baseball hasn't talked, the Dodgers haven't talked, and Shohei definitely ain't talking.
Well, and he's got the ability. I mean, rightfully so. He's Japanese. He doesn't speak a lot of English. He's not going to talk to reporters. He's not going to sit down and do an interview. You're not going to get the Michael Jordan, I have a competition problem interview from him. It's just not going to happen. Like, he's just going to fade into the background. And this is where I'm wondering, from the Major League Baseball side of things, I mean, I think you're largely right, Sprague, that they're probably scared to touch this because of how important he is to the sport. But if this is any other player, any other random player that you find out they're wiring $4.5 million to an illegal bookie, it's a federal crime. Like, dude, I guarantee you there is already a ruling from the sport in some sort of word. Like, hold on, you're going to sit your ass in the locker room for a couple of weeks until we figure out what you did.
Well, his reluctance to talk is, they were told yesterday he's not going to talk to reporters. I'd imagine that's going to continue to be the stance. The other part of this is he kind of gets to just lean on the no English thing.
Yeah.
If this is anybody else, you're probably right, but it's also because you can communicate with him. And his interpreter's been fired, so he probably feels a certain way about that because this is like his brother. If he is a fall guy in any way, he's definitely not going to continue to try to bury his dude, as his dude's probably going to wait for a payout at some point in his life of like, thanks for doing this for me. I really appreciate it.
You know, all that deferred money in that contract? I'm going to go ahead and hold out for 10 years. And
we're going to be kings in Japan in 15 years when I walk away from this game.
He's the new Barry Bonds trainer. He's going to go to prison for a couple of years in order to not say anything and get a payout.
Fill in any star in the major sports of American sports right now and make this about them. Like LeBron James. Rich Paul has a debt of 4.5.
Yeah, wiring money to a bookie
or
to pay off bets.
I don't know Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. Like, this is, to me, the equivalent of that. And that's what makes this so insane. That and the way they've handled this. You do not let him talk, and then you did. And then you just threw him under the bus and said everything he said is a lie. Massive theft happens.
Well, it's just interesting, too, how they approached it, because at the least, guys, say nothing wrong happened, that this was all above board, which it wasn't because there was an illegal bookmaker.
I don't think it exists, Schultze. It smells too bad.
No, but what I'm saying is, at the best, there's, like, tax implications here. Like Shohei can't give away $4.5 million as a gift. You know, if I give you $50, the government does not care. But that's, I think, where they started to run into issues, is kind of the point that I'm getting at in their public statement, Sprague, is when you try to say, oh, this happened. It's like not me just giving you guys $50. The government sees a $4.5 million transaction. Oh, it wasn't for Shohei's gambling debts. It was for his interpreters. That's technically a $4.5 million gift. This is bad. Oh no, it needs to be stolen money. Oh wait, no, this is actually uncovering a lot more bad stuff.
The original thing was the interpreter said Shohei found out and helped his friend. And then the lawyers got a hold of it and now they're claiming massive theft.
And there's a tax reason in that, but I also think that is going to uncover some more seedy stuff.
Well, he's already implicated. He wire transferred. Whether it was him or the dude, like, idiots. What are you doing? It's federal law to not wire transfer to an illegal bookie.
What if baseball finally found the new face of the sport, and then he goes down in a gambling scandal and is banned for life?
What if he just
right after signing a 10-year, $700 million? What was his contract with the Dodgers? $700 million contract.
You're not
plays 2 games.
You're not wrong. He's implicated. It's an illegal bookie, but there literally is. If you go fill out your tax form, there is a slot for money made off of illegal proceeds.
Yes, there is.
There is.
On your tax form.
Yes, there is. It's going to be funny if he just quits and goes to Japan and then
I'm just out of here. See
you know
later.
what? I'm going to go make a bunch of money in Japan and rule that league.
Has anybody checked if he was on the flight back from Seoul, South Korea yet? Have we seen him in the States?
Are we doing private jet trackers the way we do college football coaches? Hey, a jet
Flight
went from Seoul to Japan.
Flight trackers, man. We need them. Hey, your Beavs start their run in the Lady Tournament today at 5 o'clock. It's on ESPNU. We like their chances against the fighting Colin Cowherds.
Love it. Did he go to Eastern? He did go to Eastern.
I think it's Eastern Washington.
I think they're 14, 15-point favorites.
18.5.
Oh, is it up to 18? Wow. I love it. Yeah, I think the ladies can get to the Sweet 16, and then anything goes from there. I think the women's tournament, when it gets to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, it's going to be phenomenal. And there's so much. Like, is Caitlin Clark going to finally do it?
Yeah.
Is LSU going to stop her in their own region? South Carolina's been remarkable of a story. Notre Dame, nobody talks about Notre Dame the way we talk about some of these other programs. Texas is really good. And we might get Juju Watkins in Portland. So there's a lot of excitement, I think, within the tournament.
If Caitlin Clark's in the title game, does it outrate the men's national title game?
Who's in the men's?
Houston versus UConn. UConn, Houston.
Probably not, because UConn will be looking to do a back-to-back thing, but I bet you it's a little closer than you think because Caitlin Clark is such a damn good draw.
Yeah.
And her winning a title would be awesome. Jay Williams would look like an idiot, and it kind of put a cherry on top of an amazing college career.
It's one of the dumbest sports takes I've ever heard.
Just truly the worst.
Because there's people at UConn who played for loaded rosters that were super teams, and they won 4 national championships. That means they're better than Caitlin Clark.
I did it. Diana Taurasi did it. Why can't you do it?
Now this is a dumb comment. Is Iowa a good program?
Oh yeah. Well, with her, yeah.
With her, before
they're loaded.
Historically, have they been a good program in women's college hoops?
To my knowledge, I don't believe they've been bad. They've been middle of the road to okay, good.
Okay, but it's not like UConn historically, where it's like you just jumped on a gravy train and you're a really good player on that gravy train.
They've got players that have grown up with her in that system, and they've had a couple transfer portal players that have made them a step above what they've normally been.
And the Lady Pilots are in Manhattan, Kansas to take on Kansas State. They're a 22.5-point underdog. Let's get weird, Pilots.
Take the points?
Yeah, take the points.
Take all those points.
1:30 on the, I believe, ESPN News is where that game is. And you can hear it over on 910. Let's Sprague the line. Get your fake sponsors in to the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. We'll do some gambling next. First, your Schulte with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Stanford's. This classic American steakhouse has exactly what you've been craving. Visit them in Clackamas, Tannisbourne, or online at stanfords.com. First on the Fan, the Oregon Ducks pulling off the upset win over 6-seed South Carolina in round 1 of the Big Dance, 87-73 the final. Jermaine Cousinard going off for 40 points. It's the most for any Oregon player in tournament history. The Ducks moving on to play 3-seed Creighton tomorrow. You got the women's tournament getting going today. 3-seed Oregon State facing off against number 14 Eastern Washington. The Beavs, an 18.5-point favorite. Tip-off at 5 p.m. on ESPNU. Don't forget the 13th-seeded Portland Pilots taking on 4-seed Kansas State. Portland a 22.5-point underdog. Pregame getting going with our own Jason Swigart at 1 p.m. over on 910 ESPN, with tip-off at 1:30 on ESPN News. In the association, the Portland Trailblazers on the court again tonight. It's the second of a back-to-back against the Clippers at Moda. Malcolm Brogdon, Shaedon Sharp out, Jeremy Grant doubtful, Matisse Thybulle questionable, and Anthony Simons probable. The Clips 12.5-point favorites. Tip-off at 7 p.m. on Root Sports. And in baseball, one of the last major free agents finally off the board, J.D. Martinez signing a 1-year, $12 million deal with the New York Mets. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Fred Meyer always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices. And when you download the Fred Meyer app, you can enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital.
Do you like planting corn and then shoving it in your thing to charge it?
Is that what you guys do on your weekends? What do you guys do on your weekends?
I plugged my corn in this morning.
Did you?
Yeah.
You plug your corn in?
I did.
You shuck your corn this morning?
$3.33 to charge my thing with my corn.
I plugged it into the wrong hole, though, so I had to go again, unfortunately.
Don't you hate when you have those moments where you have an idea of what you're trying to say, but you don't say it properly, and then everybody just goes, "What are you trying to say?"
What's up, boys? This is what I gotta say today. This team blows. Mac has a noodle arm.
Oh, you'll be back. Hey, you know what? Sometimes you fall off your horse. You know what you do? You get back up on that horse, all right?
We think.
Yeah, we think. It is a Friday, so we'll see if we make it to Monday. Sprague Line brought to you by Shohei Ohtani. At least Sprague can say he hasn't lost $4.5 million gambling yet.
Yeah, seriously.
Sprague in the Line brought to you by Sprague's Interpretation Services. Please pay off my gambling debts.
You say that in Japanese.
Let's see here. Sprague in the Line brought to you by Bruno Mars and Ohtani's interpreter gambling debts. The only way they could be in that much debt is by following Sprague's picks.
Now, is that story true? Because I saw the story and then I thought somebody had said that it's not true, that Bruno Mars, who's doing a residency in Vegas,
he's basically gambling away whatever they're paying him.
He's $90 million residency, and he reportedly was it MGM?
I think so.
$50 million in debt, and I'm like, that can't be true. And then I think somebody came out and said, not true. So
does Bruno Mars need the money?
MGM came out and said, no, we're
Does he need
enjoying
$50 million?
Fantastic relationship with him. So I'm not sure that there's
as
much truth through it as we thought.
Unless they've got something squared away on the side where it's like he makes these...
I mean, everybody would obviously want $50 million, but if he's like doing well and he's like, you know what, I just want to hang out in Vegas for a couple of months, I'm going to do some shows and lose a bunch of money at the blackjack table.
I would assume like part of that contract is like $1 million or $2 marker at whatever casino you've got the deal with. Like, yeah, bro, you've got per night. Here's the amount that you've got per session to
So he's
go
lost
spend.
50 straight nights, maybe. And that's maybe he's not in debt, but they're just like, damn, dude, you can't win any of these bets.
Sprague Line brought to you by Aaron Rodgers for VP. Still a better ticket than Sprague picks.
Wow,
big Aaron Rodgers guy.
That's pretty bad.
Sprague Line brought to you by Dad Bod. Whoa, Dirt. Hey.
You did do that to yourself.
Come on, man. Sprague Line brought to you by Boeing Airplanes. You may crash and die, but we still have a higher success rate than a Sprague pick. Sprague Line brought to you by purposely losing bets when secretly you really want a Big Johnson on your back like Sprague.
Okay.
Out of context, that makes no sense. With context, that's a delightful sponsor right there.
Yeah, shove it in the thing. What? The corn or the Big Johnson?
Either or.
Yeah, charge it.
Who we like today, boys? Let's go. You're actually going to a place where we can gamble. I'm going to give you a parlay and I'll Venmo you money.
Really?
Yeah.
How much do you want to put down?
$10.
Okay.
I'm not going big. I don't know anything about college hoops.
Let's do this. How about the first 3 listener picks that are serious? Because if you give me some bad picks because it's funny, that's not funny. I want to see if I can hit I want to hit. I want to make some money, man. I want to lose $100 today.
Okay.
Am I taking FAU minus the 4.5 or Northwestern plus the points? Is the toothpaste gonna beat Baylor? Is Colgate gonna do it at 14.5?
I mean, they're getting a lot of points. There's some big spreads. I feel like the unders were hitting pretty heavy and often early yesterday.
A
lot of unders on the opening day of the tournament.
College basketball.
I mean, it's a bad product and people can't shoot, and that's going to lead to some unders being hit.
Is Shaka gonna get outsmarted by Western Kentucky?
See what you did there.
Be a good TV tease, wouldn't it? Would Shaka get outsmarted?
I'm going to give you my pick for the day.
Okay.
And I would like this in a parlay.
Well, you just said I'm going to give you my pick for the day, so you made it sound like there is no parlay.
Are we doing like I'm going to do a show parlay? Everybody send their picks in. I'll take your picks. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm going to give you my pick though.
I'm the one laying the bet. Why would I give you my pick?
I'll Venmo you.
No, I know, but you're making it sound like you're going to casino and not me.
Auburn minus 13.5 over Yale.
Ooh. All right.
I think Auburn is big and physical. They're playing Yale.
It's Yale.
It's Yale.
Oh, okay.
They're playing Yale.
Do you know anything about Yale?
It's Yale.
Princeton beat Arizona last year.
What is George Herbert Walker Bush coming out on the court? Get the hell out of here. Give me Auburn minus 13.5.
Jeremy Lin is the only one out of the Ivy League school group that ever did anything.
Man.
So, there's my pick.
Okay. Yale.
What do you guys got? You guys got any picks? Who you like? Give me your picks.
I might lay the house on Oregon State women's.
Okay.
I think they're going to destroy Eastern Washington.
It's a pretty big line. Eastern Washington probably isn't very good at women's basketball.
Although 20 is the Arizona game was 20.5 and they only won by 20.
A lot of people were upset at Arizona yesterday for taking their foot off the gas in the last couple of minutes.
Was it them or was it a different team that didn't score in the final 4 minutes and that because of that they didn't cover their spread?
Oh, I don't know that.
There was either them or another team that didn't score
Gonzaga, they were up by 40 basically. I don't know what the line was in that McNeese game, but I think they only ended up winning by 20.
I'm forgetting who it was,
everybody.
but somebody yesterday, maybe it was Arizona, but one of the teams was in blowout mode, and they didn't score in the final 4 minutes, and people were pissed because they didn't cover the spread with it.
Good for Monson. He was winning even when he wasn't winning. Good
Dude,
job.
we didn't bring that up, the Monson thing. I totally forgot that in my notes today. Did you see what their athletic director said?
I saw it after the show.
What a D-bag.
He said he fired him to motivate the team, and it worked. he
Yeah,
tried to take
he took
credit.
He took credit, yeah.
And also tried to throw the coach under the bus, saying, "Hey, he's not saying everything publicly. We agreed on this." No, he really tried to take the high road.
I kind of like Alabama minus 9.5.
Okay.
SEC's not been good in it, but I like Nate Oates.
Big fan of Avery Johnson. That was a joke, by the way. I know that he's not the coach there anymore.
I like New Mexico, the 11th
We knew that
seed
was a
over
joke.
6 Clemson.
We gave you the respect to that joke that it deserved.
Sounds funny.
People are texting in a lot of Grand Canyon bets out there.
Okay, let me see what Grand Canyon is right now.
Lopes up. Let's go Grand Canyon. Lopes up.
New Mexico versus Clemson, the other 11-6 seed
Where
today.
the hell is Grand
New
Canyon?
Mexico's a favorite in that game,
They
I believe.
are by 2.5. I'm almost thinking I don't want to take just the money line. I think I'll take winning by 2.5 because they got to hit a 3 at the end if that's the worst case scenario for they winning. So yeah, no, I'll take New Mexico to cover v Clemson.
Grand Canyon 5.5 point dogs to St. Mary's.
Let's do it.
You want to do that one?
Let's do it. Let's throw Grand Canyon in there.
I just want points because I want value.
I'm with Schulte on New Mexico. I like that bet. How is 21-11 Clemson a 6 seed?
How was South Carolina 6 seed?
Great question.
I watched them play.
They shouldn't have been.
Should have been a 13-4 there yesterday.
Does the Dabo Sweeney factor slip in a little bit to the college basketball?
Can you hand me my
rankings?
bracket? Can you hand me my bracket real quick? You stole my bracket.
I commented.
yesterday.
Well,
I
I'm
didn't
trying
know
to keep track. I can't. You're going to fill out like 15 of these things and be like, no, this is my real bracket.
I have New Mexico in my Sweet 16, so I'm all in on that.
Okay, we like New Mexico bet.
So we're doing New Mexico,
Auburn, New Mexico,
and
Grand
Canyon.
Canyon, and you liked Alabama.
Well, I kind of want to stop at 3.
Okay, we'll
4
stop at
seems
3.
risky. Yeah.
3-team bet. Rufio says FAU first half under.
Oh.
All
Dude,
right.
if you
All
come
right.
at me with a first half under in a college hoops game, I assume you know what you're talking about.
I do too.
So I might put that in the old parlay as well.
Northwestern plus 3.5 is getting sent in.
I'm
We got
kind of
that.
eyeing that too. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I just want points. It's 4.5 now, by the way.
Which one?
Northwestern
Northwestern?
FAU. Yeah,
Okay.
so there's a point up from those listeners.
Spring and Line brought to you by Swag Does Manhattan, Kansas. That is.
Pinky's up.
Pinky's up.
He is.
Why is there a light blinking in there?
Oh, that means that the air signal's having issues. I'm listening right now, though, and it sounds like we're back. And see, the light stopped blinking.
At some angles, can we not repeat this to him?
Yeah, nobody's listening right now. You're good. Say it.
At some angles, Swag is starting to look like an old woman.
A little androgynous there. Hey, androgyny's sexy. David Cassidy was a hottie back in the day.
Hey, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. You know what I mean? It does not have to be
Do
a
I
bad
have to
thing.
pull that, too? From some angles. Swag.
Swag
I'm not
looks
even
like
going to say it.
Look at his pinkies out Manhattan in Manhattan.
Swag's starting to look like a woman.
Well, no.
An elderly with old eyes.
Yeah, you didn't even
He
say
didn't
like
just
a,
say woman.
like a hot young thing.
I didn't. Hey, I'm into Jill.
Swag looks like Janet Reno.
You're going
What
like
happened here?
Robin Williams, Mrs. Doubtfire on us. God.
Why don't you go stick your corn in it, okay?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Let's wrap it up. We'll send you off onto your weekend, and we'll do it next on The Fan. You like planting corn and then shoving it into your thing to charge it?
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
Colin Cowherd.
Kenny Pickett has a career 13 touchdown passes. Russell's disaster year in Denver.
All right, fist pumping your way into the weekend every single Friday. It's good to hear Rebecca again. I haven't heard this one in a while.
See, I actually need FAU to win on my bracket.
Uh-oh.
I liked UAB. I picked San Diego State.
Conflicting interests now.
I picked St. Mary's and not Grand Canyon. I care more about money than I do this bracket.
Yeah, very true.
But I do want to beat Jay Billis.
Go hang out at Alanate today. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's not a half hour Danny and Dusty. It'll be a full Danny and Dusty within a full prime time.
I almost, if this was 1999 radio, I would have led the show by calling their hotel room and waking them up, telling them this was an alarm clock call, basically.
This is your service.
Your service. Yeah, like, hey, we needed to be woken up.
Good morning, your wake-up call's here.
Just to play that joke, but it's not, and we have to ask permission before people are on the air now.
The tournament starts at 9:15. It's time to get up. Go get your bets in right now down at the Sportsbook at A.
Both tournaments are going, man. This will be a good day.
It's going to be great, man. The ladies get going today. The men, day 2. Oregon will be tomorrow. The Creighton game will be at 6:40 right here on the Fan.
One quick one, because while you were gone, we had our P1 Timbers bro give us some heater picks.
Ooh.
Timbers plus 245 to win by at least one against a banged-up Philly team.
Okay.
And also says odds are pretty good for Anthony to score and assist at plus 1,400.
I like that.
So some Timbers action as well for Sprague line.
Like that. And, hey, tomorrow, if you're sitting around watching the tournament, in between duck timeouts, flip on over to the CW for the final home game of the Portland Winterhawks season.
You know we will.
A week before the playoffs start, as they're fighting for the number 1 overall seed in the Western Conference. There's a lot on the line tomorrow at the VMC.
You going to be rusty in that?
Little rusty.
Yeah, nice goal.
We got to dive into some numbers today. We got to do a little research. That will do it for us, folks. Thanks so much for being a part of our weekend, our Friday. Enjoy the tournament. See everybody out at A today for Fan Madness Day 2. We'll talk to you Monday at 6 a.m. Calling us next. Listening to 1080 The Fan.
Everybody loves a high-scoring basketball game. I'm Nick Costos here to help you beat the books with BetQL. The March tournament matchups are finally here, and BetQL is ready. Higher-scoring affairs lead to more unbelievable moments, and the BetQL model is focused in on some of the game totals for Thursday's betting action, including the over in Iowa State, South Dakota State. I'm Nick Costos. Bet smarter and beat the books. Download the BetQL and BetMGM apps today.
For more than half a century, contractors and trade professionals have relied on WeatherGuard for heavy-duty truck and van storage equipment, not just to protect their valuable tools, but to protect their professional reputations. For pros, the WeatherGuard badge makes a statement about what